If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description. Additionally, if you would like to request novels and access my Google Drive where I have 200 plus audiobooks, then you can join my Patreon. Link is also provided in the description.
Chapter 41, 2 Tasks Extra Chapter. The moon hung high, casting a soft glow over the dark, quiet streets. Stars were sparse in the clear sky. Aoki sat on the edge of a rooftop, his elbows resting on his knees. One hand supported his chin, while the other held a gourd of demon wine. He took a hearty gulp, savoring the warmth as it slid down his throat. It's almost time, he mused aloud, eyes scanning the streets below. The demons should make their move tonight. I wonder if they'll come my way. As he lifted the gourd for another sip, he noticed a swift-moving figure below, far too fast to be human. They're here, Aoki muttered, a hint of excitement in his voice. He stashed the gourd and stood up, his senses sharpening. This presence, it feels strong, almost like a lower moon. Yet he knew that titles weren't always a true measure of strength. There were many powerful demons who didn't hold the lower moon title. Just a few weeks ago, he had dispatched a demon nearly as strong as Rui, earning him a substantial reward of 400 experience points. Regardless of whether this demon was lower moon 3, Aoki wasn't going to let it escape. Just as he was about to leap into action, he felt another, more menacing presence. Turning sharply, he spotted a figure with short pink hair and pale skin, covered in dark blue tattoos. His eyes were golden, inscribed with the words upper rank and 3. Akaza. Aoki's heart skipped a beat. What's the upper rank 3 doing here with the lower rank 3? Is this a trap? The realization hit him hard. This wasn't a case of a lower rank turning into an upper rank, both ranks were here, targeting him together. Ding! New mission acquired. The end of the upper moons. The end of the upper moons. The 12 Kizuki are the elite warriors directly under Muzan Kibutsuji's command. The upper moons are his strongest lieutenants. Mission objective, kill 3 upper moons. Mission reward, 2500 experience points 3 skill points bat wings. Ding! New mission acquired, hunter and prey. Hunter and prey. As you hunt, you realize you are also being hunted. Prove who the real predator is. Mission objective, complete the hunt while being interfered with by Akaza. Mission reward, 400 experience points 1 skill point. The system's prompts bombarded him, but Aoki had no time to process them fully. Akaza vanished from sight, and instinctively, Aoki struck out at the air in front of him. Their fists collided with a resounding boom, sending shockwaves through the air. Akaza barely flinched, while Aoki was forced back, nearly losing his footing. Below, Binjai, the lower rank 3, halted his movement and stared up in shock. Your fighting spirit is impressive, Akaza said, his voice tinged with excitement. Why are you working with lower rank 3? Is this a setup? Aoki demanded. Yes, Lord Muzan anticipated you would target the lower ranks and planned this trap specifically for you, Akaza replied, his confidence palpable. To him, Aoki was already a dead man. So, the scenes of devouring humans were staged to lure me, Aoki concluded. He shook his head, then asked, are there other teams like you out there? Indeed, lower rank 1 and lower rank 2 are also being shadowed by upper ranks, Akaza confirmed. Doma and Kokushibo, Aoki murmured, recognizing the names. He hadn't expected Muzan to consider him such a significant threat. All the upper moons have been mobilized. Even the pillars wouldn't receive such attention. No more talking. Let's begin. Akaza assumed a martial stance, a 12-cornered snowflake pattern glowing beneath his feet. His eyes burned with anticipation. Fight me. Aoki felt a pang of regret. If only he had mastered the transparent world, he might have had a chance against Akaza today. The transparent world was a powerful asset against most opponents, but against Akaza, it was crucial. Can we make a deal? Let me take down lower rank 3 first, Aoki proposed, knowing the request was futile. If you can beat me, you can kill him at will, Akaza said, launching himself at Aoki with blinding speed. Destructive death, compass needle. Aoki met him head-on, their fists colliding again and again, sending shockwaves through the air. Destruction kill, chaos style. Akaza's attacks were relentless, his moves a blur of speed and power. Each strike was a calculated blow designed to overwhelm. Aoki countered with his own technique. Aoki style, death calamity. The force of their blows tore through the rooftop, sending debris flying. Aoki struggled to hold his ground under the onslaught, each impact pushing him further back. Akaza's eyes lit up with excitement. You're strong. Destructive death, foot style, explosive flurry. His kicks blurred into a whirlwind of force, each one faster and more precise than the last. Aoki blocked and parried with death calamity, his defenses strained to their limits. Boom! 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 Each clash sent shockwaves rippling through the air, pushing Aoki to the brink. He was barely managing to fend off Akaza's relentless assault. You're quite formidable, Akaza said, his voice tinged with respect. He unleashed a rapid series of blows. Destructive death, 8-layered demon core. Bang! Aoki's body was battered, wounds opening across his form as he was sent flying. He hit the ground hard, coughing up blood, his bones aching from the force. As expected of upper rank 3, Aoki muttered, wiping blood from his lips. Akaza's attacks were brutal and precise, his speed and technique nearly overwhelming. In sheer combat skills, Akaza was superior. Aoki had always prided himself on his fighting prowess, often outmatching other demons. But today, he faced an opponent who not only matched but surpassed him in skill. Akaza's technique was enhanced by Compass Needle, a degraded version of the transparent world that allowed him to sense movements through the flow of fighting spirit. As Akaza bore down on him again, Aoki barely had time to roll out of the way. The ground where he had been standing exploded into a shower of debris. Boom! Akaza's blow shattered the floor, sending rubble flying. Destructive death, crushing mountain, 10,000 leaves flashing willow. The ground trembled as cracks spread outwards, collapsing 2 nearby houses. Fortunately, the area was deserted, sparing any innocent lives. Bang! The impact sent Aoki tumbling through the air, a deep gash tearing across his side, nearly cleaving him in half. But in an instant, he vanished, reappearing on a neighboring rooftop. Chapter 42, Consecutive Level Ups. Akaza emerged from the settling dust, his earlier excitement giving way to confusion. His eyes narrowed at Aoki, trying to understand what had just occurred. What happened? Why didn't I sense your fighting spirit? Akaza's voice was edged with curiosity. Aoki sighed, a hint of regret in his eyes. Honestly, I'd love to keep fighting you. The intensity of this battle has pushed my skills to their limits and beyond. He paused, glancing around as if expecting something. But, he continued, I'm worried that other upper moons, or even Muzan Kibutsuji himself, might already be on their way here. Akaza clenched his fists, pointing one at Aoki. Unfortunately for you, this isn't a fight you can just walk away from. Aoki's response was swift. No, I decide when this ends. In the blink of an eye, his figure vanished. Akaza's eyes widened. Again, he couldn't sense Aoki's movement, it was as if he had simply ceased to exist. At the end of the street, Binjai, the lower rank 3, watched in stunned disbelief as Aoki suddenly appeared in front of him. Aoki style, storm. Aoki's attack was swift and devastating. Binjai barely had time to react before his body was riddled with fist-sized holes. His limbs were rendered useless, and his head bore a gaping wound. Since his fight with Rui, Aoki's strength had grown significantly. The surprise attack nearly incapacitated lower rank 3 in an instant. Akaza, sensing Aoki's reappearance, summoned his needles and launched a counterattack. Destructive death, final form, blue-silver chaotic afterglow. A barrage of missile-like projectiles filled the air, hurtling towards Aoki. He had no choice but to abandon his finishing move on Binjai and dodge the onslaught. Boom! 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 Explosions rocked the street as the missiles struck, turning the area into a war zone. The ground fractured, and nearby houses crumbled into ruins. From the rubble, a mass of flesh began to reassemble into Binjai's form. Akaza's attack had inadvertently helped him regenerate, but he was visibly weakened. Damn that traitor's strength! Binjai thought bitterly, his face pale from the effort of regeneration. This wasn't part of the plan. Realizing the danger he was in, Binjai turned and fled, not wanting to face Aoki's wrath again. The memory of his near-death experience was too fresh, too terrifying. As he ran, Akaza watched him with disdain. Foolish, he muttered. Running won't save you. He can reappear anywhere. Just then, Akaza felt a sharp presence behind him. Without turning, he kicked upward. Destructive death, foot style, crowned first cut. Aoki barely had time to switch from attack to defense. The force of Akaza's kick hit him like a sledgehammer, forcing him to disappear once more. Where did he go now? Akaza's frustration grew. Losing track of his opponent within the range of his compass was infuriating. Suddenly, he sensed movement again. Destructive death, foot style, flashing light group. He lashed out with a rapid side kick, but his foot met only empty air. This again. Akaza's voice was thick with irritation. What kind of technique is this? Is it some blood demon art? Rarely had Akaza encountered an opponent who left him feeling so unsettled. He prided himself on his combat skills, yet this battle was testing his patience and strategy. Then, a realization hit him. Aoki hadn't attacked again. Why? Had he given up? No, Akaza thought, eyes widening in alarm. Lower rank 3. He dashed in the direction where Binjai had fled. Halfway there, the sound of fierce blows echoed through the night. A feeling of dread settled in his gut. Rounding the corner, Akaza's gaze turned icy cold. Aoki stood over the remains of Binjai, smiling faintly. "You're too late," he said. Lower rank 3's body lay in a crumpled heap, lifeless and consumed. The system's notifications filled Aoki's vision. Kill Lower Moon 3 and gain 500 experience points. Constitution +1. The end of the Lower Moons completed. Rewards distributed. Hunter and Prey completed. Rewards distributed. Congratulations, you've leveled up. Congratulations, you've leveled up. Congratulations, you've leveled up. Aoki blinked, taken aback by the rapid succession of level UPS. He quickly did the math in his head. With the experience from Lower Moon 3, plus the 1,200 points from the end of the Lower Moons and 400 points from Hunter and Prey, he had gained 3 levels at once. Akaza's face contorted with anger, his golden eyes burning with rage. He didn't care about Binjai's fate, but to kill him in Akaza's presence was a grave insult. The ritual begins. Akaza roared, as a massive 12-pointed snowflake symbol appeared beneath him. He charged at Aoki, his intent to kill clear. Aoki's mind raced. The situation had changed dramatically. With 3 new levels and 4 skill points, he could now learn 1 new skill. Should he choose Transparent World and try to defeat Akaza here and now? Akaza's tragic backstory flashed through Aoki's mind. Unlike Rui, who was pitiable, Akaza's story was filled with both pathos and a relentless drive. Yet, Aoki knew he couldn't afford to show mercy. Akaza's numerous sins over the centuries meant his death would be a release from his torment. But if I use my skill points on Transparent World, I'll have to delay upgrading Demon Devourer to level 2, Aoki thought. The cost of accumulating skill points was steep, and future experience gains would only get harder to come by. His hesitation lasted less than a second. Learn it, he decided. This was a rare opportunity. Missing it might mean never encountering Akaza under these conditions again. Killing Akaza would yield significant experience and fulfill the end of the Upper Moon's quest, making it worth the investment. Aoki dodged Akaza's furious attack and was about to call out the system to learn Transparent World when a sudden, oppressive presence filled the air. The world seemed to freeze, and a wave of malevolence washed over him. Emerging from the shadows was a young man in a white shirt and black jacket, his skin as pale as death and his eyes a deep, plum red. The sheer force of his malice was almost palpable, turning the night into a living nightmare. Chapter 43, Demon Devourer Level 2. Aoki's eyes narrowed as he recognized the imposing figure approaching through the battlefield's haze. Kibutsuji Muzan. Stopping mid-action, he muttered under his breath, "So he's here already. What a shame." With Muzan's arrival, the prospect of killing Akaza had just evaporated. Aoki knew he needed to reassess the situation quickly. "We meet again," Muzan's voice was calm, almost deceptively friendly, as his gaze swept over the battlefield before locking onto Aoki. Aoki maintained his composure. "You're early. I wasn't expecting you so soon." To an outsider, their exchange might seem cordial, as if 2 old acquaintances were catching up after a long absence. "It's a pity I didn't realize your uniqueness right away," Muzan continued, his tone laced with a mix of curiosity and menace. "But I've got you now. Let's uncover your secrets." With a swift, almost casual motion, Muzan extended his hand. A sudden whip of dark energy lashed out towards Aoki, slicing through the air and effortlessly cutting through the surrounding houses as if they were made of paper. But just as it was about to connect with its target, Aoki vanished. Muzan's expression darkened. His eyes darted upward, sensing movement. Hovering above, Aoki looked down with a wry smile. "Thanks for the food, Muzan. We'll meet again soon." And with that, he disappeared into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a faint shimmer in the air. Muzan's face contorted with fury as he scanned the area, his eyes wide and searching for any sign of Aoki. There was none. "He's gone," Muzan growled, his voice thick with rage. "I can't believe he escaped right under my nose." In a fit of rage, Muzan unleashed a powerful shockwave, obliterating the nearest building and sending Akaza flying. Blood spewed from Akaza's mouth, but as a demon, such injuries were trivial and quickly healed. Akaza landed on his feet, approached Muzan and knelt on one knee. "Master Muzan, the defector has a space-crossing ability." Muzan's eyes flared with anger, and another shockwave erupted from his body, sending Akaza crashing into the rubble with even greater force. "Do I need you to state the obvious?" Muzan's voice was cold, each word dripping with disdain. "Find a way to neutralize this ability." Akaza, bloodied but unbowed, pulled himself from the debris and responded respectfully, "Master, his ability seems similar to Nakame's control of the Infinity Castle." Muzan stared at Akaza for a moment, his eyes narrowed as he considered this information. Without another word, he flicked his arm and vanished, leaving Akaza alone amidst the wreckage. Akaza clenched his fists, looking up at the sky with a burning resolve. "Defector, I won't forget this humiliation." Dash. By the river, a large tree stood tall, its leaves rustling softly in the gentle breeze. Ripples in the air began to form beneath its branches, gradually outlining and revealing Aoki's figure. He landed softly on the ground and immediately sank to his knees, exhausted from his rapid escape. Kibutsuji Muzan showed up in person, Aoki mused aloud, wiping the sweat from his brow. He must see me as quite the threat. To Muzan, Hashira were mere nuisances, no more significant than flies to be swatted away. Only the combined might of the entire Demon Slayer Corps warranted his serious attention. Aoki chuckled to himself. But I should thank him. His appearance made things quite interesting. He conjured a blue screen in his mind and began scanning the system's notifications with a keen eye. Physique +1, he noted, the result of enhancing the demon devouing ability. It had been some time since he last received an attribute reward. Leveling up 3 times in a single encounter was a rare feat, one he had never experienced before, even when his levels were much lower. This kind of confluence of circumstances was exceptional and might never happen again. Name, Aoki. Strength, 15. Constitution, 15. Intelligence, 15. Agility, 15. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. Free attribute points, 6. Items, Chi and Blood Pill x3. Dash. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV11, 3/1100. Skills, Demon Blood 4, Space Travel, Transparent World, Not Learned Yet, Demon Devouring. Free Skill Points, 4. Quest, The End of Upper Moon, 0/3. Aoki savored his gains for a moment before deciding how to distribute his newfound attribute points. He allocated 2 points each to Strength and Intelligence, and 1 point each to Constitution and Agility. As the points settled into his being, he felt a surge of energy course through his body, gradually subsiding as he adjusted to his newfound power. Next, he turned his attention to upgrading Demon Devouring to level 2. With Muzan now on the scene, his plan to kill Akaza had been thwarted, but he could still proceed with his original strategy. A strange sensation washed over him as he activated the enhanced level 2 Demon Devouring. He examined his hand, feeling the power intensify with each moment. At level 2, the ability had undergone significant evolution. The speed at which he could devour demons had greatly increased, making it much harder to interrupt. Now, he could consume weaker demons without needing to beat them into submission first. Moreover, the effect of level 2 Demon Devouring was no longer confined to the point of contact. It inflicted damage throughout the demon's entire being, causing irreversible harm. This was akin to directly depleting their life force. With this upgrade, Aoki felt more formidable than ever in his battle against demons. Even Kibutsuji Muzan would not be immune to the devastating effects of his enhanced skill. Name, Aoki. Strength, 17. Constitution, 16. Intelligence, 17. Agility, 16. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. Items, Chi and Blood Pill X3. Dash. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV11, 3/1100. Skills, Demon Blood 4, Space Travel, Transparent World, Not Learned Yet, Demon Devouring 2. Quest, The End of Upper Moon, 0/3. All my attributes are approaching 17, Aoki assessed with a hint of satisfaction. I'm on par with Akaza in terms of strength. Though my skills may not yet match his, with level 2 Demon Devouring, I now have a clear advantage. Feeling a sense of accomplishment, he turned his attention to the Chi and Blood pills. With a thought, a small porcelain bottle appeared in his hand. He uncorked it, releasing a fresh, enticing aroma that filled the air. Aoki's mouth watered involuntarily. This was the second time since becoming a demon that he felt such a craving, the first time being for the ghost wine. Inside the bottle were 3 small, red pills, slightly larger than soybeans. He examined them closely, noting their vibrant color and subtle glow. The Chi and Blood pills were simple in their function, they replenished strength, akin to how human blood nourished demons. In essence, they were his equivalent of an energy booster, perfect for recovery in the midst of a battle. Pleased with his discovery, Aoki pocketed the pills. This operation had been incredibly fruitful, yielding more rewards than he had anticipated. Reflecting on his gains, Aoki stretched and relaxed under the shade of the tree. He had achieved a great deal, but he knew there was always a higher goal to set, a greater challenge to face. This operation was fruitful, he mused, already setting his sights on his next objective. Time to aim even higher. Chapter 44, Meeting of Pillars. At the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters, the usually busy pillars had gathered together for a rare occasion, waiting silently. Moments later, a young man with severe wounds on his face, accompanied by a beautiful woman, slowly emerged from the room in front. "You're all here. I'm so glad we can all gather again for the pillar meeting." His voice was gentle and steady, with a unique rhythm that brought a sense of calm and happiness to those who heard it. All the pillars knelt on one knee. "Greetings, my lord. May my lord be in good health." Yubayashiki Kagaya slowly sat down and smiled warmly. "Then, let's begin." The pillar meeting, held every 6 months, involves the pillars and the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, the head of the Yubayashiki clan. They discuss matters such as the areas where demons appear, Muzan Kibutsuji's movements, the next generation of pillars, and the overall discipline and power balance of the Demon Slayer Corps. Time passed slowly. As the meeting was about to end, Yubayashiki Kagaya spoke again. "In addition to the matters we've covered, there's one last thing for this meeting, concerning a special demon." "A special demon?" Many of the pillars looked puzzled. The Sound Pillar, Duzui Tenjin, brushed the hair from his forehead and asked, "A special demon? My lord, is it one of the 12 Kizuki?" "It's not one of the 12 Kizuki." Yubayashiki Kagaya shook his head. "For now, let's call him Aamira." Aamira first appeared in November last year at Fujikazan Mountain. Fujikazan Mountain. All the pillars were stunned, including the Flower Pillar, Kane Koko, who knew part of the story. The Wind Pillar, Sanamai Shinazugawa, spoke grimly, "I remember that during that period, a large number of demons mysteriously died on Fujikazan Mountain." Kagaya nodded gently. "Initially, we couldn't uncover the truth behind the mysterious deaths of the demons, but now we can be reasonably sure that Aamira was responsible." The pillars grew more curious. It's not unusual for demons to fight each other, but without a Nikaran sword, it's difficult for a demon to kill another if their strengths are similar. How did Aamira kill dozens of demons in less than a month? And what was his purpose? Kagaya continued, "The first time we observed Aamira was when he left Fujikazan Mountain." Sanamai interjected, "My lord, please forgive my presumption. Leaving Fujikazan Mountain? Fujikazan Mountain is covered with wisteria flowers. How did he manage that?" Kagaya's tone remained gentle. Aamira prepared special clothing to avoid contact with the wisteria flowers. Moreover, Aamira likely wasn't captured and placed in Fujikazan Mountain. He probably entered on his own. At this point, the pillars understood that Aamira had gone to Fujikazan Mountain to kill demons, and his strength must far exceed the demons there. Kagaya continued, "On the night Aamira left Fujikazan Mountain, something else happened." The lower rank 6 and lower rank 4 appeared at the foot of the mountain. They were there for Aamira. After encountering each other, they fought without any communication. We don't know the exact details, but we are certain that Aamira did not die. The pillars nodded in agreement. Aamira was indeed powerful, as he managed to escape from 2 lower-rank demons, consistent with their earlier assumptions. Our second encounter with Aamira was last month. At this point, Kagaya glanced at Kane. Kane added, on the night of December 17th, a crow flying over Mount Nadagumo accidentally discovered demons fighting each other, one of them being Aamira. The crow witnessed Aamira defeating another demon and then using some method to devour it. Devour. The other pillars looked confused. Aamira placed his palm on the demon, and the demon's body gradually disappeared. This was the crow's description. From what I can tell, the demon was likely devoured, Kane explained. The other pillars remained silent but seemed to agree with Kane's assessment. So, Aamira had entered Fujikazan Mountain voluntarily to devour demons? What was his purpose? Could he grow stronger by consuming other demons? Are you certain the demon is dead? Uzui Tenjin asked. We're almost certain, Kane replied. I followed my lord's orders to investigate Mount Nadagumo. I found signs of a battle, but no demons other than Aamira. It's safe to assume they're all dead. Kagaya added, according to our subsequent investigation, the group of demons that once occupied Mount Nadagumo was likely led by the lower rank 5, numbering around 5 demons. The pillars had various expressions. Chiyomeheim Jima clasped his hands together and asked, Kane, did you see Aamira? Kane nodded. I did, but as soon as we met, he vanished and I didn't detect any movement. Blood demon art. Someone speculated. It's impossible to be sure, Kane replied. There's one more thing. Aamira recognized the crow and captured it. But instead of harming the crow, he instructed it to return to the Demon Slayer Corps to request help in treating the injured at Mount Nadagumo. Kane, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, Uzui Tenjin remarked, shaking his head. The other pillars had similar reactions. They all knew of Kane's ideals, but they neither supported nor believed they were achievable. Kane did not argue further. There's more information about Aamira, Kagaya concluded. Kagaya spoke, drawing everyone's attention. We received intelligence earlier that a large number of young women have disappeared near Asakusa, and there are rumors that the culprit is a demon. Team member Shinobu Koko went to investigate and found that there were no demons involved, but rather people using demons to commit crimes. All the missing women were locked away in a hidden location, becoming tools for those criminals to satisfy their vile desires. Everyone was silent. They could protect people from demons, but there was little they could do about the harm humans inflicted on each other. Kagaya continued, this was originally kept secret, but something significant happened the night before Shinobu Koko arrived. Hundreds of criminals in that den were slaughtered overnight, and the victims were freed. Only then did the truth come to light. Yabayashiki Kagaya looked around the room and said, the one responsible for this is a demon called Aamira. The pillars frowned. They understood what their lord was implying. The killer was the demon named Aamira. Putting aside other issues, it is common for demons to kill people. But this situation was peculiar. According to their lord, Aamira killed criminals and saved hundreds of victims. The methods were extremely violent, yet it was hard to say his actions were wrong. If there were no other concerns, he could even be seen as a vigilante of sorts. This was difficult for them to believe or accept. A righteous demon? What a joke! Kagaya added, Shinobu Koko personally investigated the scene, and none of the bodies showed signs of being eaten. Sanamai immediately replied, perhaps he didn't eat them on the spot but took a few corpses with him. The other pillars remained silent. They wanted to agree with him, but it didn't make logical sense. When had a demon ever secretly eaten people? If Aamira truly wanted to devour humans, why did he let the victims go? Kagaya spoke seriously, we can discuss whether Aamira eats humans later. What I want to inform you of is that Aamira, while living in Azabu as a human, was seen out during the day on more than one occasion. What? This is impossible. My lord, are you certain? Upon hearing this, the pillars instantly shifted their focus from whether Aamira eats humans, and the room was suddenly abuzz with shock. Yabayashiki Kagaya raised his hand, signaling everyone to calm down. I have confirmed this matter repeatedly, and it is absolutely true. A demon immune to sunlight? The pillars were all stunned. Yabayashiki Kagaya continued, in addition to this, there are other pieces of information that have yet to be confirmed. Over a month ago, it was suspected that Aamira killed lower rank 6 and saved a woman. Half a month ago, Aamira was reportedly seen in a town where it was rumored that a demon with the words lower rank 3 engraved in its eyes was devouring people. 7 days ago, a fierce battle took place in that town at night, leaving an abandoned street completely destroyed. Since then, there have been no more reports of demons eating people. Additionally, there have been many recent cases of demons suddenly disappearing. When our team members arrived, they found the demons had already been eliminated. While there is no concrete evidence, it's possible that Aamira was responsible. The pillars were all taken aback. Lower rank 6, lower rank 5, lower rank 3. If this information was accurate, it meant that Aamira had killed 3 of the lower moons. Quite an accomplishment. When it came to slaying demons, Aamira was more effective than any of them. None of them had ever killed 3 lower rank demons. The high death toll of demons should have been good news, but most were not pleased. They had not forgotten that Aamira was suspected of growing stronger by devouring demons and that he might have overcome the weakness to sunlight. If he continued to grow, he would be a far greater threat than the 3 lower ranks combined. Yabayashiki Kagaya spoke in a slightly serious tone, therefore, I ask that you all closely monitor Aamira's whereabouts from now on. If you encounter him, unless he is harming someone, avoid engaging him in battle. What are your thoughts? Sanamai frowned and said, My lord, demons cannot be trusted. Yabayashiki Kagaya gently replied, which is why, Sanamai, we need more information before making a judgment, don't we? Sanamai fell silent. Everyone exchanged glances and then responded in unison. Yes, sir. They hadn't let go of their hostility towards Aamira. However, gathering intelligence first was indeed a wise approach. Kane Koko had mentioned before that Aamira had mastered the ability to vanish suddenly without her noticing any movement. Kane was one of the strongest among the pillars. If she couldn't detect him, no one else would stand a chance. Unless they could counter this ability, dealing with Aamira would be no easy task. Chapter 45, Fallen Princess. Yoshiwara. The vibrant glow of lanterns lit up the bustling streets of Yoshiwara, casting long shadows as people moved in and out of the brightly lit establishments. The air was thick with the mingling scents of powder and incense, enveloping Aoki as he paused briefly at the entrance before stepping inside. I remember Daki went by the alias Warabihime and stayed at Kyogoku, Aoki thought. But that was years later in the timeline. She changes her identity every decade or so. Given it was still several years before those events, Aoki knew Daki might not be at Kyogoku. Yet, her popularity in Yoshiwara and the signature G in her alias made her location relatively easy to pinpoint. Aoki strolled casually through the lively streets, absorbing the atmosphere while keeping an ear out for gossip. It wasn't long before snippets of conversation confirmed what he sought. The name Warabihime was on many lips, her beauty and allure a frequent topic of admiration. So, she's indeed in Kyogoku, he mused. Daki's blood demon art could also be described as having spatial attributes. Her ribbons can trap people, seemingly in a pocket dimension. This thought intrigued him as he approached the tall, opulent building of Kyogoku, which was adorned with lanterns bearing its name. He set aside his reflections and walked in, ready to confront the demon. Immediately, a middle-aged woman approached with a welcoming smile. Welcome to Kyogoku, esteemed guest. How may I assist you? Aoki cut her off with a direct question. Is Warabihime Warren available? The woman's smile faltered slightly. I'm afraid Warabihime Warren is not feeling well today and isn't seeing guests. Aoki didn't waste time arguing. He produced a thick wad of money, which he handed to her with a steady gaze. I came specifically to see her today. I'm sure you can make an exception. The woman's eyes widened momentarily before she quickly collected the money. Of course, sir. Please, follow me to the tea house. I'll see what I can do. A young girl appeared and bowed, leading Aoki to the tea house. The room was tastefully decorated, a serene retreat from the more extravagant main hall. It exuded a refined elegance, perfectly suited for receiving distinguished guests. As the girl left, Aoki took the opportunity to survey the tea house, noting its subtle beauty and tranquil ambience. He appreciated the setting, which was ideal for an encounter with the elusive Warabihime. Meanwhile, upstairs in Kyogoku, the proprietress Mitsu hesitated before a closed door. Gathering her resolve, she knocked softly. After a moment, the door opened, revealing an ethereally beautiful woman who regarded Mitsu with a cold, almost predatory gaze. "What do you want?" Daki, in her Warabihime guise, asked icily. Mitsu, despite her years in the business, felt her heart race. The intensity of Warabihime's eyes always unnerved her, as if she were a mere insect before a beast. Swallowing her nerves, she managed to speak. "There's a guest who wishes to see you. He's quite distinguished." Warabihime started to close the door. "I'm not interested." "Wait." Mitsu blurted out, desperation in her voice. "He's very handsome. I think you'll find him appealing." Daki paused, intrigued despite herself. "Handsome, you say?" She glanced back at Mitsu, evaluating her sincerity. Mitsu's years of judging character rarely failed her. Warabihime had a known preference for good-looking patrons. "Fine," Daki relented. "I'll see him. But only after I'm ready." Mitsu exhaled a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "Thank you, Warabihime. I'll wait here." As the door closed, Mitsu reflected on Warabihime's critical importance to Kyogoku. Before Warabihime's arrival, the establishment was just another brothel. Now, thanks to her, it was one of Yoshiwara's most renowned houses. Over half an hour later, Warabihime finally emerged from her room. Her already striking beauty had been further refined to an almost divine level. Her presence commanded attention, and as she moved, everyone in her path, whether staff or patrons, stared in awe. Men clumsily bumped into walls, entranced by her allure, while women couldn't help but admire her grace. A man who had just entered the establishment gawked openly. "Who was that? Can we choose her?" he asked his friend eagerly, still rubbing his head after walking into a pillar. "That's Warabihime Warren," his companion replied, equally mesmerized. "Choosing her? Dream on. We couldn't afford her together, and even if we could, she only accepts those she personally deems worthy." Aoki, the lucky and rich man they envied, waited in the tea house, growing impatient. An hour had passed. His concern wasn't the wait itself but the possibility that Daki might have sensed his presence. Muzan's potential awareness loomed over him. If Daki alerted Muzan, not only would tonight's plan fail, but Daki and her brother Jayataro might go into hiding, making them much harder to locate in the future. Just as he was contemplating his next move, the sound of approaching footsteps drew his attention. "Madam, stay here," Daki commanded, stepping towards the tea house. She opened the door, her eyes locking with Aoki's. T/N, there is a Patreon for this work, and any new work I add will be dropped there first. Check it out for an early release up to 15 chapters. Patreon link patreon.com/elite. And also give me power stones. Comment. 15 comment. Vote. Chapter 46, 1 vs 2. He looks quite impressive, was Daki's initial thought as she assessed Aoki. Yet, her perception swiftly shifted as realization dawned. Hey? Why is he a demon? Her next thought clarified her stance. No. He's the traitor. Her expression hardened imperceptibly, and without hesitation, she instinctively retreated. However, before she could fully withdraw, Aoki, lightning fast, closed the distance and positioned himself above her. In an instant, ribbons shot forth from Daki's form, but Aoki didn't flinch. His descending punch collided with Daki's chest with tremendous force, driving her down and rending her open with a resounding boom that fractured the ground. The shockwave spread, causing the tea house to crumble amid startled cries and frantic retreats from onlookers like Mizan, who were caught off guard by the spectacle. Panic gripped the surroundings as confusion reigned. Aoki emerged from the rubble, facing off against two figures, Daki and a man with short, black-green hair, Jayataro. Daki's clothing had been stripped down to essentials, revealing a beautiful yet fierce countenance adorned with pink tattoos and eyes marked with the characters Upper Moon and 6. Opposite them, Jayataro bore a similar tattooed visage, his upper body bare except for loose blue pants, his stance hunched and his eyes bearing the same engravings as Daki's. Aoki focused his attention on Jayataro, identifying him as the true Upper Moon 6. Despite Daki's considerable strength among the lower moons, she paled in comparison to the upper moons. "Surprising to see a traitor in our midst," Jayataro jeered, his voice tinged with a hint of madness as he raked his face with his nails, drawing blood. "Brother, kill him. Kill him quickly," urged Daki. Aoki's response was measured. Before we engage, let's talk, he proposed calmly. Is there an upper moon you dislike? Tell me where to find them. I can help you eliminate your adversary, like the upper moon 5 who's been suppressing you. He didn't disguise his motives, he aimed to capitalize on Muzan Kibutsuji's strategic moves, which involved the upper and lower moons. If Daki and Jayataro perished, his campaign against the upper moons would inevitably surface. He, very well, Jayuaro chuckled nervously, his demeanor betraying a hint of instability. I'll reveal that secret when you're about to die. Before any further dialogue could unfold, the tension snapped as Jayataro lunged forward with explosive force, generating a shockwave as he dashed towards Aoki. Midway through his assault, he swung his arms, sending 2 blood sickles slicing through the air, aimed to strike Aoki from either flank. Aoki swiftly parried the sickles with a powerful arm swing. Undeterred, Jayataro summoned the sickles back, this time launching himself into the air, a maniacal grin spreading across his face as he aimed the blades at Aoki's neck. Reacting swiftly, Aoki countered with a powerful downward strike, meeting Jayataro head-on with a thunderous clash that sent Jayataro hurtling backwards, his grin fading into shock as he gazed at Aoki in disbelief. Aoki wasted no time, his figure coiling like a spring as he launched himself towards Jayataro like a cannonball. Go to hell! He thundered, his intent clear. Daki, not to be outdone, unleashed a flurry of silk ribbons that enveloped Aoki, attempting to ensnare him. Aoki halted, tearing through the ribbons with a single motion, then turned to face Daki. Her black hair had turned white, save for a grass-green tip, and a yellow eye now adorned her forehead. With a swift series of motions, 2 blood sickles whirled towards Aoki, their edges laced with razor-thin blades of blood. Jayataro followed close behind, his once bilateral eyes reduced to a solitary orb. Jayataro orchestrated their assault, Daki providing supporting attacks. Aoki maintained his composure, meeting Jayataro head-on. The sickles and ribbons danced around him, yet his countenance remained placid, his gaze unwavering. Come, Aoki murmured calmly, his eyes steady as he prepared to engage Jayataro. Jayataro and Daki's combined onslaught continued unabated. Blood sickles spun and silk ribbons soared, but Aoki stood firm, using his fists alone to thwart their advances. The impact of their clash reverberated through the surroundings, reducing nearby buildings to rubble and marring the ground with deep craters. Jayuaro's expression darkened, the gravity of the situation dawning upon him. The traitor's strength far exceeded his expectations. Initially, reports had depicted the defector narrowly escaping the clutches of lower moons in their brief skirmishes. Subsequent updates heralded the defector's defeat of Lower Moon 5, and, most recently, an encounter with Rui, one of the upper moons, ending in mutual failure. Now, facing the defector head-on, Jayataro realized the true extent of Aoki's capabilities. He recalled Muzan Kibutsuji's earlier advisements, the defector possessed the ability to teleport instantaneously. Yet, despite the confrontation, Aoki had refrained from utilizing this aptitude. Moreover, the defector's prowess extended to negating demons' regenerative capabilities, an ability that defied Muzan Kibutsuji's previous analyses. Merely severing flesh and blood around wounds no longer sufficed, extensive tissue removal was necessary to restore their regenerative abilities. Adding to Jayataro's apprehension, every wound inflicted by the defector seemed to diminish his strength, stamina, and regenerative capabilities further. The situation appeared increasingly dire. Did you foresee death at the hands of a demon hunter, only to find death at a demon's hands instead? Jayataro's thoughts raced, his face contorted in a feral grimace. For the first time since becoming a demon, he sensed the specter of death looming over him. Suddenly, a colossal fist tore through the remnants of the silk ribbons, entering Daki's and Jayataro's sight. No! Jayataro gasped, raising his arms in a futile attempt to shield himself. The ensuing impact shattered both arms and tore his right shoulder away. Ah! Screamed fallen princess in agony. Jayataro hurriedly cradled his sister and attempted to staunch the bleeding, but he soon realized her regenerative abilities had yet to return. Chapter 47, Regeneration Ability Collapsed. Extra Chapter. Under the bright moon and a tapestry of stars, Yoshiwara should have been bustling with activity. However, tonight, the scene was dramatically different. Everyone was fleeing in desperation, their faces marked by fear, confusion, and shock. 2 young men in brown uniforms, emblazoned with the kanji for annihilation, stood outside Yoshiwara, observing the chaos with surprise. They were members of the Demon Slayer Corps, who had stopped by Yoshiwara Yukio after a successful hunt, eager to see the renowned flower street. But what they found was far from what they had expected. Suddenly, a woman stumbled and was about to fall. The short-haired young man quickly caught her. "Are you okay, miss?" he asked. "Thank you," the woman responded, visibly shaken. She wore a beautiful kimono, her face adorned with exquisite makeup, which, despite her current distress, couldn't hide her mature beauty and charm. The young man's face turned red as he struggled to find his composure. The other, slightly older with longer hair, looked on helplessly and asked, "Miss, what happened inside? Why is everyone running away?" A look of terror crossed the woman's face. "I don't know. I just saw something fighting, ribbons everywhere, and the houses, they were being destroyed." Her words were disjointed, but the young men understood enough to become serious. Normal human conflicts wouldn't cause such destruction. Only something as powerful as a demon could create such havoc. "Miss, please leave quickly," the short-haired young man urged. With that, the two dashed into Yoshiwara Yukio, following the noise of the commotion. It didn't take long to find the battlefield. The sounds of the fight were unmistakable, echoing from a distance. "I wonder who's battling the demon? With such intense fighting, could it be one of the Hashira?" The two hesitated to approach. They were ranked Kanu and Tsuchinoto in the Demon Slayer Corps, and if this was a battle at the Hashira level, they knew they couldn't intervene. Instead, they decided to scout the area to see if there was any way they could help. Climbing to a rooftop, they cautiously peered ahead. The sight they witnessed left them both astonished. There were not just two combatants, but three. And all of them were demons. The short-haired young man, uncertain, turned to his companion, "Senpai, if I'm seeing correctly, they're all demons, right?" The long-haired young man nodded slowly, his expression grave. "Yes, all three are demons." "So, what do we do now?" asked the short-haired young man, bewildered. He had not been with the Corps long and had never encountered a situation where demons fought each other, especially three formidable ones. The long-haired young man thought for a moment and made a quick decision. "These demons are incredibly strong. We can't just stand by and do nothing. You need to send a message immediately. I'll stay and keep an eye on them. Make sure to indicate that the demons involved are suspected to be upper rank." The short-haired young man was about to leave but stopped in shock at the words, "upper rank." For them, encountering even a lower-rank demon was daunting. But an upper rank? Yes, at least two upper-rank demons, the long-haired young man confirmed seriously. He had seen lower-rank demons in action before, and the current scene was far beyond anything they could muster. Without another word, the short-haired young man hurried off. Moments later, a crow took to the skies, its wings flapping swiftly as it disappeared into the night. Aoki glanced at the departing crow and the two figures on the distant rooftop. "It seems we need to wrap this up quickly. Why isn't she regenerating?" Daki's brother, Jayataro, stared at his sister's wounds, his pupils narrowing in shock. Wasn't enough flesh and blood cut off? No. His gaze darted to the other injuries on his sister's body. None of them were healing. Even the shallowest scratches remained. Her regeneration ability has completely collapsed. Understanding dawned on Jayataro as he looked up at Aoki, fear and hatred flashing in his eyes. "Brother, what's happening? Why isn't my body regenerating?" Daki's voice quivered with panic, her beautiful face marred by fear. In their centuries as demons, this was the first time they had faced such a dire situation. The looming threat of death engulfed her, causing her body to tremble uncontrollably. Jayataro's expression darkened. Aoki's abilities far surpassed what they had been led to believe by Muzan's intelligence. Worse yet, it was an entirely one-sided battle. Jayataro's attacks, whether slashes or poison, had no effect on Aoki. In contrast, Aoki's assaults were devastating and potentially fatal for them. Jayataro now understood the frustration humans felt when fighting demons. It was infuriating. "Why? We're all demons. Why are you attacking us?" Daki screamed at Aoki. Aoki responded calmly, "Demons are powerful, beautiful, and can do anything. Isn't that your belief? I'm stronger than you, so naturally, I'll kill you. Do I need a reason?" Daki paused, momentarily stunned. Jayataro, turning to shield his sister, hurled her away. "You go first. Find a place to hide and wait for me." "No." Aoki's figure suddenly appeared above Daki. Behind him, Jayataro's eyes widened in horror. Beneath him, Daki's face was contorted with fear. No. Don't. I don't want to die. Brother, do something. If there is a next life, be a good person. Aoki-style funeral. Aoki declared. Daki's expression froze as red lines appeared on her body. She fell to the ground and disintegrated. I'll kill you! Jayataro roared, leaping at Aoki with his blood sickles raised. But just as he was about to strike, Aoki vanished into thin air. Is this the instantaneous space-traveling ability that Lord Muzan mentioned? Jayataro frantically searched for any sign of Aoki, glancing back at his sister. Though her regeneration had collapsed, she was still alive, merely unconscious. If he could defeat Aoki, there might still be a chance to save her. But Jayataro's eyes narrowed as he spotted Aoki standing on a nearby rooftop. I'll give you one last chance. Is there really no demon you despise? Tell me their location, and I'll send them to hell to join you. Jayataro's eyes blazed with madness. Without a word, he exploded from the ground, charging toward Aoki. Blood demon art, rotating circular slash, flying blood sickle. Opening his arms, the blood sickles spun around his wrists, forming sharp, thin blades of blood. They whirred like deadly grinders as he hurled them at Aoki. Chapter 48 The End. Lord Tenjin, urgent information. A beautiful female ninja with a high ponytail hurried into the room. Urgent information. Uzui Tenjin stood up and took the document, quickly scanning its contents. Standing nearly 2 meters tall, Tenjin was a striking figure with short silver hair adorned by a headdress. His build was muscular yet agile, and his handsome features commanded attention. He was the sound Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps, and Yoshiwara Yuakaku was his jurisdiction. Upper-rank demons fighting in Yoshiwara Yuakaku. Tenjin's eyes narrowed as he read. But then his brows furrowed. Something was off. Typically, upper-rank demons were rare, and seeing even one was unusual. But 2 appearing simultaneously was highly suspicious. More importantly, the 12 Kizuki, all direct subordinates of Muzan Kibutsuji, were unlikely to fight each other without cause. Is it a trap? Tenjin mused, then considered another possibility. Could this be related to Aamira? Since the pillar meeting, Aoki had been under his scrutiny. Alongside other Hashira, Tenjin had analyzed Aoki's strength. Defeating a lower-rank demon under the interference of an upper-rank demon suggested that Aoki's power might rival that of an upper-rank demon. Let's handle this with flair. Tenjin grinned, grabbing his dual swords and strapping them across his back. Hinatsuru, report this information to headquarters immediately and request reinforcements from the Lord. Make sure to mention that one of the combatants is suspected to be Aamira. Tenjin, what about you? Hinatsuru asked, her voice tinged with concern. Tenjin's smile broadened, his eyes gleaming with resolve. I'll go ahead. Both Aoki and the upper-rank demons were critical targets. He couldn't miss this opportunity. Boom! A massive hole erupted in the roof, with sharp blood blades slicing through everything around, sending debris and dust flying. Aoki appeared behind Jayataro and launched a punch with the force of a cannonball, shaking the air with thunderous force. Jayataro barely had time to react. His body convulsed, releasing a torrent of blood that formed into a series of slashing blades, encircling him like a larger meat grinder. Blood demon art, leaping beams. Aoki paid no heed, allowing the blood blades to graze his arm as he drove his fist into Jayataro's head. Bang! Half of Jayataro's head exploded, but he fought to remain standing, clutching his blood sickle and sweeping it backward. Aoki's arm regenerated instantly. Aoki style, death. Clang! 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 The two clashed fiercely, fists meeting blood sickles in rapid succession. Jayataro gritted his teeth, his attacks gradually faltering. His techniques were skilled, but his strength was significantly inferior. Too strong. The short-haired young man clutched the roof tiles, trying to steady his trembling body. He knew demons were far stronger than humans, but the demons before him today, especially the black-haired one, completely shattered his understanding. Can humans really fight such monsters? He muttered. Even from a distance, the oppressive aura made his limbs cold, crushing any will to resist. The long-haired young man took a deep breath. Demons are formidable, and the 12 Kizuki are the worst of them. We ordinary members can't handle them, but the Hashira can. The Hashira? The short-haired young man looked unconvinced. He had never seen the Hashira in action. No matter how strong they were still human. Could humans truly contend with such powerful demons? Wait. It's reaching a climax. The long-haired young man's eyes widened, ignoring his companion's doubts. Bang! Aoki's heavy punch sent Jyotaro's blood sickle flying. Jyotaro's body arched back, exposing a gaping wound in his chest. Aoki style, storm. Aoki's movements shifted, his attacks becoming as relentless as a storm. Boom! 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 Jyotaro's body erupted with holes, his face growing more maniacal. Blood gushed from his wounds, condensing into a vortex. To disrupt Aoki's recovery, Jyotaro needed to inflict massive damage in a single blow, buying enough time for him and his sister to escape. But then, Jyotaro's eyes widened in shock. Did you forget something? Before the swirling blood blade tornado, Aoki suddenly appeared above Jyotaro's head. Damn it! Damn it! Does his power know no bounds? Why? Why would such a demon exist? Jyotaro's face contorted with rage and despair as a cold wind swept by, severing his head in silence. Blood spurted from the wound, forming a sharp blade storm that shot skyward. Aoki reappeared to the side. It's time to end this. Aoki style, storm. Fists, elbows, legs, knees. Aoki's attacks rained down like a torrential downpour. Jyotaro was flung into the air and then crashed heavily to the ground, his body resembling a shattered rag doll. All the flesh and blood were obliterated, and his regenerative abilities collapsed entirely. Cough, cough. Jyotaro's head rolled to the side, coughing up blood. Aoki marveled, "You're still conscious." The stronger the demon, the less human it became. A fresh demon could lose consciousness from a head blow. After their body collapsed, even powerful demons like Daki would fall into a coma. But upper-rank demons seemed immune to anything short of true death. "Where is my sister?" Jyotaro asked. Aoki glanced at him, walked over to Daki, picked her up, and placed her beside Jyotaro. Jyotaro's fingers twitched as he grasped Daki's hand, his expression softening. He looked back at Aoki, saying, "I didn't expect to die at the hands of another demon." Aoki replied, "Don't worry. You won't be alone for long. Muzan Kibutsuji will join you soon enough." Jyotaro stared at him deeply before slowly closing his eyes. "I don't know the location of the other upper ranks." "What a pity," Aoki sighed. He had hoped for more information. But such luck was rare. Aoki stretched his arms out over Jyotaro and Daki. Devour. An invisible vortex formed, swallowing them both in an instant. Strength +1. Free skill point +1. Kill upper rank 6, Jyotaro and Daki, and gain 1,500 experience points. Congratulations, you've leveled up. Attribute points, skill points, 1,500 experience points, quite the bounty. This is just from the 6th rank. What kind of reward would I get from killing Kokushibo? Aoki's eyes gleamed with anticipation. Of course, that was just a thought for now. With his current strength, he likely couldn't defeat Kokushibo. After a final glance at the two Demon Slayer Corps members watching from the distant rooftop, Aoki's figure vanished. Chapter 49, The Demon Slayer Corps' Response. The two members of the Demon Slayer Corps trembled and almost lost control of their bladders. They had witnessed the battle just now. Even the weakest female demon was much stronger than them, and the other two were simply beyond their imagination. Especially the demon who emerged victorious. Even from this distance, they could clearly feel his menacing aura. After Aoki left, both of them exhaled deeply, their faces edged with fear. "Senpai, for a moment there, I thought we were dead," the short-haired young man said, his voice trembling. The long-haired young man replied in a serious tone, "If he had attacked us, we would definitely be dead. Fortunately, he didn't, for some reason." The short-haired young man spoke dejectedly, "Is that an upper moon demon? Can such a powerful monster really be defeated? That's something the Hashira need to figure out." The long-haired young man responded, still steady. "What I'm more curious about is how the demon who won managed to kill the other two demons." The short-haired young man looked puzzled. He had never heard of anything like this before. Suddenly, a tall, white-haired young man appeared beside them. "You mean, one of the demons killed the other two?" he asked. The two men immediately stood up and respectfully addressed him, "Lord Sound Hashira." Uzui Tenjin surveyed the shattered street with a serious expression. Is the battle over? The long-haired young man, looking guilty, responded, Yes, Lord Sound Hashira. The battle ended not long ago, and the victorious demon has left. We failed to stop him. Uzui Tenjin shook his head. It's not your fault. The strength of the upper moons is beyond your capacity. Even if you had tried to stop them, it would have been in vain, costing you your lives. Tell me about the course of the battle and how the demon managed to kill the others, Uzui Tenjin continued. The long-haired young man began recounting the chaos from when they first found Yoshiwara, up to the point when Aoki left. The short-haired young man added details occasionally. An upper moon and a lower moon. Uzui Tenjin made a rough judgment based on their descriptions. Although the female demon was powerful, she clearly was not at the upper moon level. He had never faced an upper moon demon, but many Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps had fallen to them, giving him a clear idea of their strength. But why were an upper moon demon and a lower moon demon together? Forget it. They're all dead anyway, so why they were together doesn't matter. Uzui Tenjin quickly dismissed the question. If nothing unexpected happened, the other demon must be Aamira, as mentioned by the master. I didn't expect he would actually kill an upper moon demon. Uzui Tenjin's expression grew serious. Although Aamira had always opposed demons, the Demon Slayer Corps was wary of any demon growing too powerful. Unfortunately, this was beyond their control. The only consolation was that today's incident confirmed once again that Aamira bore no ill will towards humans or the Demon Slayer Corps. Otherwise, these two members wouldn't have survived. Report this to the master. Uzui Tenjin instructed, no longer dwelling on the matter. Despite Aamira's lack of hostility towards the Corps, he didn't seem keen on communicating with them either. At the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters, Yubayashiki Kagaya looked over the report in his hands, his expression tinged with excitement. An upper moon. He actually defeated an upper moon. Mr. Aamira accomplished what our Demon Slayer Corps has been unable to do for centuries. He exclaimed. His wife, Aamira, sighed. If only he were human. Kagaya shook his head. It doesn't matter if he isn't human. As long as our goals align, there's a basis for cooperation. Aamira, I have a feeling that Mr. Aamira will be key in defeating Muzan Kibutsuji. Cough, cough. His excitement triggered a coughing fit. Aamira gently patted his back and called for their child to fetch hot water. After a while, Kagaya calmed down and said regretfully, It's unfortunate that Mr. Aamira doesn't seem willing to communicate with us. There will be a chance, Aamira reassured him. He is a demon, after all, it's normal for him to be wary of us. Kagaya's eyes burned with determination. Yes. As long as Mr. Aamira continues to kill demons, there will be an opportunity to connect. At the butterfly estate, a black crow descended with a message. Shinobu Koko read the information, her pupils contracting in surprise. Shinobu, what's wrong? Is there an urgent mission? Kane Koko, noticing her sister's reaction, paused while combing Kaneo's hair. It's not a mission, sister. See for yourself. Shinobu handed over the report. Hey! Kane was taken aback. She read it twice before putting it aside. As expected of Mr. Aamira, he actually killed an upper moon. Shinobu said, What surprises me more than him killing an upper moon is how he keeps finding the 12 Kizuki. Even our Demon Slayer Corps takes a long time to find information about the 12 Kizuki, but he discovers them one after another. Does he have a special method for tracking demons? It is indeed strange, but to find out, you'd have to ask Mr. Aamira directly, Kane smiled. At this rate, Mr. Aamira might eliminate all the 12 Kizuki. Shinobu struggled to find the right expression. When it came to killing demons, Aamira's accomplishments had surpassed everyone in the Demon Slayer Corps, making him the most effective in their era. Kane said with a hint of regret, It's unfortunate that we couldn't communicate with Mr. Aamira this time. It would have been better if Mr. Uzui had arrived earlier. Shinobu replied calmly, even if the Sound Hashira had arrived sooner, it might not have helped. Sister, didn't you meet him last time? What was the result? His stance was already clear. Kane sighed again, because Mr. Aamira doesn't trust us, right? By the way, isn't there a girl in our team who is friends with Mr. Aamira? Shinobu answered, Mitsurai Kenroji doesn't know yet that Aamira is a demon. Kaneo Tsuyuri watched their conversation silently, her face calm, without uttering a word. Other Hashira, including the stone Hashira and the water Hashira, also received the information. Their feelings were mixed. There was excitement. For hundreds of years, the upper moons had not lost a single member. The death of such a powerful demon meant fewer victims in the future. Moreover, there was no sacrifice among the Demon Slayer Corps, which was a blessing. However, there was also a sense of shame. The one who killed the upper moon wasn't a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, nor even a human, but a demon. The Hashira felt a sting of embarrassment, as if they had been slapped in the face. In the following period, all the Hashira increased their patrols' range and frequency, hoping to encounter and defeat an upper moon to restore the Corps' honor. But encountering an upper moon demon was not so easy. Whether this was fortunate or unfortunate remains to be seen. Chapter 50, Infinity Castle. Akaza looked down at this strange space, his pupils suddenly shrinking. A different space. Infinity Castle. Being summoned here means, someone has been killed. Veins popped out on his forehead as anger etched across his face. The lights flickered on and off, and the buildings seemed to overlap and intersect. After a while, Akaza arrived at a platform. He glanced around quickly. Also present were 4 other upper-rank demons. The one missing was upper rank 6. Before they could communicate, Kibutsuji Muzan's figure suddenly appeared. His cold gaze swept across the 5 upper-rank demons. Jayataro and Daki are dead, killed by defectors. The 5 demons were stunned for a moment. Defectors. This name was unfamiliar to them all. Recently, it seemed to be the only demon they heard about. Especially Akaza, who had personally fought against the defectors. In his opinion, the only noteworthy aspect of the defectors was their bizarre movement. Everything else was unremarkable. Could the defectors have really killed Jayataro? Doma, sitting on the ground and swaying slightly, looked innocent. I'm truly sorry. I was the one who introduced Jayataro. A powerful coercion erupted from Kibutsuji Muzan's body as he looked down at the upper ranks. The blue spider lily hasn't been found. The Yubayashiki family and the Demon Slayer Corps are still alive, and the defectors remain uncaptured. Tell me, what is the purpose of your existence? Kokushibo, upper rank 1, and Gyoko, upper rank 5, remained silent, while Nakame, upper rank 4, cowered in a corner, trembling. Doma innocently remarked, "It's a pity that the defector didn't fall into the trap I set last time." A strong killing intent flashed in Akaza's eyes. Doma's preference for eating women clashed sharply with his own principles of never consuming women, fueling a deep conflict between them. To Akaza, Doma's words were clearly mocking his failure. Doma, however, seemed completely oblivious to Akaza's murderous intent. Kokushibo's low, calm voice broke the tension. Twice my subordinates crossed paths with the defector and missed the best chance to capture him. Kibutsuji Muzan slowly retracted his pressure and spoke coldly. The defector can grow stronger by devouring other demons. Having consumed Jayataro and Daki, his power will certainly increase again. Perform better next time. I don't want to hear about anyone else being killed by the defector. To him, it didn't matter much. He could create a legion of demons comparable to the lower ranks whenever he wished. But the upper ranks were different. There were 6, no, now 5, the best demons of the past hundreds of years. Replacing them wasn't so simple. Finding a successor for upper rank 6 was another challenge. As Muzan's murderous intent towards Aoki grew stronger, he thought, change. Disruption. All brought by the defectors. However, to capture the defector, he needed a way to counter his abilities. Infinite Castle. Muzan's eyes shifted slightly as he waved his hand. Thrum. The sound of a biwa resonated, and all the upper ranks vanished. Dash. Aoki lay on his back on a rock, gazing at the bright sky, his eyes unfocused. A blue screen, invisible to others, filled his vision. After devouring Jayataro and Daki, his power had reached 18 points. To maintain balanced attributes, Aoki allocated 2 free attribute points to physical fitness and agility. The skill points were insufficient to learn the next skill, so he decided to save them. Name, Aoki. Strength, 18. Physique, 17. Intelligence, 17. Agility, 17. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV12, 397/1200. Skills, Demon Blood 4, Space Shuttle, Transparent World, Not Yet Learned, Demon Devouring 2. Mission, Upper Rank Doom, 1/3. Free Skill Points, 2. As he reviewed the system panel, Aoki began to ponder. Currently, the only ones stronger than me are Muzan Kibutsuji and probably Kokushibo. Doma is a tough call. As for Akaza, he may have the upper hand initially, but in a fight to the death, I would definitely win in the end. After learning level 2 Demon Devouring, I have the foundation to kill Akaza. However, until I master World Transparency, it won't be easy to truly defeat him. In the world, only 3 beings posed a significant threat to him, Muzan and Kokushibo counted as one each, and Doma and Akaza as halves. As for the Demon Slayer Core, the trio of Transparent World, Sun Breathing, and the Demon Slayer mark had yet to emerge, leaving no one currently able to challenge him effectively. The only potential threat might be the strongest Hashira, the Stone Hashira. Aoki closed the system interface. Aside from attribute and skill points, there was another gain this time. His suspicion was correct. Daki's Blood Demon art did possess spatial attributes. However, perhaps due to poor compatibility or the minimal spatial nature of Daki's abilities, Space Shuttle hadn't seen any significant change. Yet, Aoki had a faint sense that something was developing. Perhaps, if he devoured another demon with spatial attributes, he might gain more. Meow. A calico cat with a talisman on its chest and a small bag appeared beside him. Here you are. I was worried you wouldn't find me. Aoki sat up, stroked the cat's head, and placed 2 blood collection devices into the small bag. This was Lady Tamayo's cat, capable of becoming invisible using Yoshiro's blood demon art. The blood collection devices, crafted by Yoshiro, were specifically designed to gather demon blood. Meow. The calico cat meowed again and slowly vanished. Time for me to go too. Aoki stood up, scanning his surroundings with a hint of confusion. Where should he go next? He had exhausted most of his information. There were no more convenient targets like Gyataro and Daki waiting for him to show up. The traces of Kokushibo, Nakame, and Gyoko were elusive, though Doma offered a slight lead. Doma is the founder of the Eternal Paradise. If I can locate the sect, I should be able to find him. The problem is, I don't know where the Eternal Paradise sect is. Aoki sighed quietly. The sect was small, with just over 200 members, making it difficult to locate. Still, it's better than wandering aimlessly. I might even stumble upon Tanjiro's house. Without hesitating too long, Aoki picked a random direction and set off on his journey. Even if he couldn't find the upper ranks, there were still plenty of ordinary demons. He wouldn't disdain small gains just because he had tasted major victories. As long as he could sustain himself, any demon offering experience was valuable. Bit by bit, he would eventually reach the next level. Who knows? Maybe one day, by sheer luck, he might encounter an upper-rank demon while wandering the road? Chapter 51, Goodbye Takina Extra Chapter. Asakusa. Miss Tamayo extracted the blood from the collection device and exclaimed, I didn't expect Mr. Aoki to obtain the blood of an upper-rank demon so quickly. Yoshiro commented sourly, that guy did a good job. This will accelerate the production of the poison, Tamayo said, her beautiful face glowing with anticipation. The concentration of Muzan Kibutsuji's blood in the upper-rank demon's blood was already quite high. She took out the microscope and began working diligently again. Meanwhile, Aoki continued his wandering. He traveled during the day and hunted demons at night. He had no specific targets. Whenever he heard rumors of a possible demon sighting, he would rush over to investigate. Sometimes he found something worthwhile, but most of the time, he returned empty-handed. Part of this was due to inaccurate information, and the rest because the Demon Slayer Corps had already dealt with it. He had a strong competitor in the Demon Slayer Corps. Aoki could only grit his teeth and endure it. He couldn't gather intelligence as efficiently as the Demon Slayer Corps. Time flew by, and 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Asakusa was an unremarkable town. One day, a dusty figure wearing a bamboo hat arrived in the town. Aoki looked at the quiet streets and the peaceful smiles of the people and sighed silently, it doesn't feel like there are demons here. 2 months, a full 2 months, and he hadn't even leveled up once. This feeling was both familiar and strange. The familiarity came from his previous experience as a hunter. During his time as a hunter, he couldn't level up for months. However, in his White Walker profession, the level rose rapidly. In just over 3 months, he had soared to level 12, like a rocket. After getting used to this rapid pace, suddenly reverting to the old pace felt strange and painful. I didn't expect that not only are there no big catches, but even the small fry are almost gone, Aoki thought sadly. He wandered around the town, found a place selling wine, and handed the shopkeeper his ghost wine gourd. "Boss, I heard there was a demon attack here recently." The shopkeeper smiled and said, "There are no demons here. A couple of drunks got into a fight a while back. It got a bit bloody, but that's all." Aoki was mentally prepared for this and wasn't particularly disappointed. There were many such rumors. After asking the shopkeeper if he had heard of any other incidents, Aoki left with his refilled gourd after receiving a negative response. Not only was his progress in leveling up slow, but his search for Tanjiro's home had also stalled. Recently, he had spent a lot of time traveling to the mountains, asking about a boy selling charcoal in every place he visited. Unfortunately, he had no luck. Maybe I need a change of pace. Should I go and chat with Miss Tamayo? Aoki pondered. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. Not far ahead, 2 women were walking slowly. One was a young woman in her 20s with long green hair. She had a plain face, yet she was undeniably beautiful. The other woman, who looked like the younger woman's mother, exuded a gentle and virtuous aura. The mother spoke continuously with a smile, and the daughter listened attentively, nodding occasionally. The scene looked very warm and comforting. The 2 women walked from one end of the street to the other and disappeared from sight. Aoki emerged from the shadows, silently watching the direction they left. "Takina, Lady Ri," he murmured. In the past 2 months, he had been so lost that he unknowingly arrived in the town where Takina and Lady Ri lived. After a moment of silence, Aoki retreated into the shadows and disappeared. On the edge of the town was an ordinary yard, with a grey house surrounded by brick walls, and a small courtyard in the center. Ri and Takina lived there now. A middle-aged woman sitting across the yard waved her arms when she saw the 2. "Ri, Takina. And Cory." Aamira, Ri and Takina responded in unison. The middle-aged woman looked at Takina and smiled, "Oh, Takina is becoming more beautiful each day. Any man would be lucky to marry her." Aamira Ri smiled modestly, "Cory, you're too kind. Although Takina looks fine, she can be too serious at times. It gives me a headache." The middle-aged woman asked casually, "Does Takina have someone she likes now? Would you like me to introduce someone?" Takina bowed slightly and said seriously, "Aunt Cory, I am already engaged." The middle-aged woman was momentarily stunned and then said excitedly, "Really? If Takina likes him, he must be a wonderful young man. When will you introduce him to me?" Takina replied, "If there's an opportunity, I will introduce him to you, Aunt Cory." After that, she nodded and went into the house. The smile on the middle-aged woman's face faded, and she sighed softly. She had noticed it when the mother and daughter first moved in. Takina was not only beautiful but also well-mannered, smart and virtuous, the perfect candidate for a daughter-in-law. Today, she finally decided to test the waters, but her inquiry was blocked right away, even before she could reveal her true intentions. "Forget it, forget it. How could my unruly boy be worthy of such a fine girl?" The middle-aged woman shook her head. Aamira, Ri and Takina returned home and immediately got busy. They collected ingredients, prepared the fish, and cooked the rice. Soon, the aroma of food wafted out of the courtyard and onto the street. Aoki observed them from a distance and mused, "It smells so rich. Today isn't a festival. Are they expecting guests? If I went over now and said, 'I'm back,' I wonder how Takina and Lady Ri would react." A smile appeared on Aoki's lips, but it quickly vanished. He continued to watch them quietly, without making a move. After a moment, he stood up. "Time to go." Aoki glanced at them one last time and was about to leave, but he suddenly stopped again. A petite girl wearing a butterfly-patterned kimono and carrying a long sword approached the door of the small courtyard. She raised her hand and knocked. Aoki's eyes were drawn to her involuntarily. The girl seemed to sense his gaze and turned her head sharply. "What's wrong, Shinobu-chan?" Takina walked out and saw the girl, a smile lighting up her face. The 2 were close in age and had compatible personalities. They had become friends during the move. "Nothing," Shinobu replied, looking away. She had felt something strange, as if someone had been watching her. Probably just someone passing by. She didn't sense any danger. Come in quickly. Takina said, not thinking much of it. Shinobu followed her into the courtyard. You're here, Shinobu-chan, Aamira said, looking up from picking the eels. Shinobu handed over a bag. Long time no see, Aunt Ri. I brought a souvenir. Chapter 52, The Transparent World. Aoki emerged from the shadows of the alley and exclaimed, your perception is sharp, truly befitting the future insect Hashira. The girl he had just seen bore a striking resemblance to the one he had encountered at Mount Nadagumo. Given her petite stature, she must be Koko Shinobu. Unexpectedly, she was the guest that Takina and Lady Ri had been waiting for. I recall Takina mentioning in her letter that they met two members of the Demon Slayer Corps, and one of them was Koko Shinobu. But who was the other? Koko Kane. Aoki touched his chin thoughtfully. Beyond that, he couldn't fathom how Takina and Lady Ri could be connected to Koko Shinobu. Well, that's good. With Koko Shinobu frequently around, no demons will dare approach. He glanced across the wall at the house where Takina and Ri lived before turning away and leaving without looking back. He had no plans to meet them. Muzan Kibutsuji was neither forgiving nor consistent. The concept of not harming family members would never occur to him. Currently, Aoki's importance in Muzan's eyes was likely second only to the Yubayashiki clan and more significant than all the Hashira. For the safety of Takina and Lady Ri, the best course of action was to keep his distance. After parting ways with Takina and Ri, Aoki's luck improved dramatically. Within a month, he encountered 3 powerful demons in quick succession. Wait, don't kill me. Please don't kill me. A demon with curved horns on either side of its head cowered in fear, its face full of terror. Aoki paused. Do you know the location of the upper moon demons? No, I don't know, the horned demon stammered. Before it could utter another word, its head exploded. Then I'm very sorry. Aoki retracted his foot politely and extended his palm. Devour. You have killed a demon and gained 80 experience points. Only 80 experience points? It's getting harder to level up. He sighed inwardly. This horned demon was stronger than the father spider demon from Mount Nadagumo. Does this mean that only the 12 Kizuki level demons will provide substantial experience in the future? But how many of the 12 Kizuki are there? I wonder if I can persuade Muzan to invest more blood into creating demons with the strength of the lower moon. As he pondered, the system notification chimed again. Skill point +1. Congratulations on your level up. Aoki brightened up immediately, setting aside his earlier thoughts. He had already accumulated 2 skill points, and with the 2 points from this level up, he could learn another skill. Aoki opened the system interface. He quickly allocated 2 free attribute points to intelligence and agility, then turned his attention to the skill column. Which skill should I choose this time? First, he ruled out Space Shuttle. Although the ability for long-distance teleportation was tempting, he needed more combat power at the moment. Next, he ruled out the level 5 Demon Blood. Demon Blood mainly helped break the blood limit and granted the ability to survive beheading. In terms of combat power, it only added a bonus of all attributes +1. Though beneficial, it wasn't as valuable as the Transparent World. Aoki no longer hesitated. The 4 skill points he had painstakingly saved up vanished in an instant. Suddenly, the world around him became clear, and everything began to appear transparent, giving rise to a profound sense of control. So, this is the Transparent World. He murmured to himself. The Transparent World had 2 main functions. First, it provided a special perception, akin to X-rays, allowing one to see through surface obstacles and directly perceive the human body. This perception was more powerful than ordinary sight and hearing, enabling one to detect subtle muscle movements and blood vessel contractions, thus predicting enemy actions and finding their weaknesses. This heightened perception could even make it seem like the enemy's movements were slowing down. Second, it assisted in self-control. The enhanced perception wasn't limited to the outside world but also extended to one's own body, allowing better control over one's emotions and fighting spirit. This offered an additional advantage. For most people, achieving the Transparent World requires mastering breathing and sword skills, but for me, it's the opposite, Aoki reflected. With the system's power, he had accessed the Transparent World without the need for traditional training, which would help him create, improve, and refine his techniques. Barring any surprises, his combat skills would rapidly advance in the coming period. It's somewhat similar to Tsujikuni Yoriichi. Aoki exhaled, and the transparent world gradually returned to normal. Through the system, he had bypassed the stages of training in breathing and sword skills to directly access the transparent world. However, he hadn't reached Tsujikuni Yoriaki's level. For him, entering and maintaining the transparent world was still challenging and consumed a significant amount of mental and physical energy. Much like Space Shuttle, the transparent world couldn't be sustained for long periods for now. Aoki glanced at the system panel. Indeed, the transparent world can be upgraded further. Reaching level 2 should bring me closer to Tsujikuni Yoriaki's level. However, he wouldn't have enough skill points for that anytime soon. Given its current duration, the transparent world was sufficient for a single battle. There was no need for continuous fighting now. Only a few enemies stronger than him would necessitate using the transparent world. Excluding Muzan Kibutsuji, there were even fewer. Name, Aoki. Strength, 18. Constitution, 17. Intelligence, 18. Agility, 18. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV13, 12/1300. Skills, Demon Blood 4, Space Shuttle, Transparent World, Demon Devourer 2. Mission, The Last Days of Upper Moon, 1/3. Aoki smiled in satisfaction. Finally, he had unlocked all the skills. Even though he wasn't obsessive, seeing not learned yet next to Transparent World in the system had always been a little bothersome. His attributes were nearly all at 18 points. I wonder how I compare to Kokushibo now. Aoki mused. Kokushibo's swordsmanship was more advanced, and he had the additional advantage of his blood demon art. But Aoki's blood demon art was also formidable. Although his combat skills and awareness weren't as honed, his Demon Devourer ability compensated for many shortcomings. Both had access to the transparent world, and in terms of attributes, they were likely on par. Aoki shook his head. Only a real fight would reveal the specifics. Unfortunately, he couldn't find a target even if he wanted to fight. It doesn't have to be Kokushibo. Akaza, Gyoko, Hantengu, any upper moon demon would do. I'm not picky. Aoki chuckled, shut off the system, and his figure melted into the night. Chapter 53, Upper Moon 2 Extra Chapter. Aoki walked down the deserted street. Dawn was approaching. Yet, this was the time when people slept most soundly, and the streets were empty. He pondered silently on which direction to take next. He had already been to the east, south, and north. Maybe it was time to head west. He had acquired the blood of the upper moon. He wondered if Lady Tamayo had discovered anything. Thud, thud. Suddenly, a strange noise caught Aoki's attention. It sounds like a fight. The noise seems distant, but for it to be heard from here, the combatants must be powerful. Could it involve an upper moon demon? Aoki's eyes lit up with curiosity, and he decided to investigate. After mastering the transparent world, he no longer feared Muzan Kibutsuji and even dared to confront Kokushibo. Of course, whether he could actually confront them was another matter. Blood splattered continually, and Koko Kane's face was as pale as paper, her haori and uniform soaked in blood. Opposite her stood a young man wielding a pair of metal fans. His hair was a shade of white oak, with one streak appearing as though it had been drenched in blood. His irises were rainbow-colored, with the words Upper Moon and 2 engraved in his eyes. Upper Moon 2. Kane sighed inwardly. She hadn't expected her luck to be so good that she would encounter Upper Moon 2 on her way back from a mission. Doma covered his chin with his fan, his face adorned with an innocent, carefree smile. You've inhaled my blood demon art, and your lungs are freezing. It's painful, right? Don't worry, once I consume you, you'll never feel pain or fear again. Kane didn't respond. Breathing had become extremely difficult, and she lacked the strength to speak. Even she was frightened by the twisted personality of this demon, ranked second among the upper moons. Don't struggle, you're dead anyway. Doma lifted his fan, advising gently. Kane gripped her long sword tightly. Given her current injuries, her fate seemed sealed. But she refused to give in. Not just for herself. As a Hashira, her body was strong, and consuming her would significantly benefit a demon. Upper Moon 2 was already terrifying, and she couldn't allow herself to become the nourishment for Doma to grow even stronger. Dawn was approaching. She just had to hold on a little longer. However, with my injuries, can I really last until dawn? Kane felt a heavy weight in her heart. Just then, both Koko Kane and Doma paused in surprise. Boom! Half of Doma's body suddenly exploded. Aoki appeared beside Koko Kane, staring at Doma. Your reactions are quick. Defector. Mr. Aamira. Kane and Doma spoke simultaneously, surprise etched on their faces. It seems introductions are unnecessary. Aoki said calmly. He had already recognized the girl next to him as Kane, the Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps, whom he had met once at Mount Nadagumo. Though he had never seen Doma in person before, he was familiar with him. Doma clapped his hands with a fan, his eyes showing a childlike innocent smile. Oh, I didn't expect to be the first to meet a defector. Aoki frowned slightly. Your way of talking is quite revolting. He had activated the transparent world and could clearly sense the deep indifference beneath Doma's innocent smile. Doma's smile didn't falter. Oh, it seems you misunderstand me. I'm genuinely pleased to meet you. That individual has always wanted to capture you. Koko Kane struggled to maintain her balance and weakly said, Mr. Aamira, how about we join forces to fight him? You should find a place to rest. Aoki declined without hesitation, keeping his eyes fixed on Doma. Most upper moons were twisted individuals, and Doma, as upper moon too, was the most twisted of them all. Doma lacked human emotions entirely and despised humans from the core of his being. Even as a human, his personality was highly twisted. After encountering Muzan Kibutsuji, Doma had asked to be transformed into a demon, which only amplified his twisted nature. He believed that consuming humans was a form of salvation for them, and that integrating such foolish creatures with himself was an honor for humanity. Moreover, Doma particularly enjoyed devouring women. This habit had caused a severe rift between him and Akaza, Upper Moon 3, who never ate women. By the way, did you know? I introduced Daki and Jayataro, the demons you killed, to Muzan. Doma sighed. They were my good friends. Now, I finally have a chance to avenge them. I told you, your fake smile is disgusting. Aoki's figure blurred as he appeared next to Doma, slamming his fist down. Blood Demon Art, Lotus Leaf Ice. Doma reacted instantly, waving his fan as cold mist coalesced into ice crystal lotuses, causing the temperature to drop rapidly. Aoki didn't even glance at the ice crystal lotuses. Crack! 2 lotuses landed on him, instantly forming a layer of frost, necrotizing the flesh on the surface. But Aoki's fist also connected with Doma's head, shattering half of it. Blood Demon Art, Lotus Flower. Doma seemed unfazed by his injuries and used the momentum to retreat, waving his fan again. Vines of ice crystals entwined with ice lotuses formed, encircling Aoki from all directions. Aoki's figure vanished and reappeared behind Doma. As he prepared to strike, sharp icicles materialized in the air. Blood Demon Art, Winter Ice Pillar. Aoki halted, swung his fist to shatter the ice pillar, then turned his gaze back to Doma, who had moved away. No wonder Akaza lost to you. If Kokushibo was a swordsman and Akaza a warrior, then Doma was a mage. His large-scale ice-based blood demon arts, both offensive and controlling, were highly effective against Akaza. Doma maintained his feigned innocent smile. That's because Akaza-sama doesn't consume women. I've told him many times that women are very nutritious. Aoki ignored his twisted logic and looked up at the sky, murmuring, time is running out. As soon as he spoke, he vanished again. This attack is stronger than I expected. I sense something bad will happen if I take too many hits. Doma's body and head wounds had not yet regenerated, and he clasped his hands together. Boom! A gigantic ice Buddha, over 10 meters tall, rose from the ground. Blood Demon Art, Mist Ice, Water Lily Bodhisattva. Chapter 54, Chi and Blood Pill. It's so fast. Aoki frowned slightly, pointed his toes, and his body rose from the ground. There was a huge ice lotus on each shoulder of the ice Buddha, with Doma sitting on the ice lotus on the right shoulder. Aoki rushed straight to the ice lotus and punched at Doma's broken head. Just as his fist approached, the ice lotus beneath Doma suddenly closed. Boom! The ice lotus shattered, but Doma's figure had disappeared. A shadow loomed, and the ice Buddha waved its palm and swatted at Aoki. The area was surrounded by an icy mist. An ordinary person would have suffered frostbite just by approaching it. Aoki twisted in midair, lashing out with his right leg like a whip. The ice Buddha's palm shattered, but the cold mist spread and instantly restored it to its original form. Aoki's figure disappeared and reappeared behind the Ice Buddha's left shoulder, his arms waving as cold rays intertwined. Aoki style, funeral. Bang! The Ice Buddha's right shoulder was obliterated, revealing Doma inside. His injuries had already healed, and he curiously asked, "How did you find me here?" Simultaneously, the Ice Buddha turned its head, opened its mouth, and spewed a deadly cold mist. How did Aoki find him? Of course, it was through the transparent world. Aoki lightly stepped on the Ice Buddha, twisted his body, and repeatedly swung his fists. Boom, boom, boom. This time, the targeted area didn't break apart. Instead, the Ice Buddha trembled, cracks spread across its surface, and ice chips flew everywhere. The vibrating fist was a technique Aoki had developed, inspired by Akaza's moves. Doma reappeared on another lotus and waved his fan. Blood Demon Art, Lotus Leaf Ice. Ice crystal lotuses formed around him. Aoki frowned slightly, his figure flickered, and he returned to Koko Kane's side. It seems this is the end for today. What a pity. Doma smiled slightly, his figure disappearing as the massive Ice Buddha broke into pieces, turning into ice crystals scattered on the ground. Didn't you capture him? Koko Kane leaned weakly against the wall, her voice faint with reluctance. There wasn't enough time. Aoki's face also showed regret. As he finished speaking, the golden rays of the sun pierced the sky, illuminating the world. He quickly stepped back into the shadows. Doma was incredibly hard to kill. Aoki's greatest advantage against demons was the demon devouring technique, which made it so that he could strike without taking damage, while every hit from his opponent would harm them. However, Doma's Water Lily Bodhisattva move largely neutralized this advantage. Doma used the Water Lily Bodhisattva like a protective mecha, making it difficult to directly attack his body. Since the Water Lily Bodhisattva was created through his blood demon art, it wasn't affected by demon devouring. Additionally, as a mage, Doma specialized in ranged ice attacks. The perception and predictive advantages from the transparent world were significantly diminished against him. Most crucially, there simply wasn't enough time. It must be acknowledged that the Upper Moons are indeed formidable opponents. So far, Aoki had faced 3 Upper Moons and had only managed to defeat the weakest, Upper Moon 6. Shaking off his distracting thoughts, Aoki glanced at Koko Kane. He was about to speak when he suddenly turned his head. A petite figure was sprinting rapidly along the road, feathers fluttering around her like a beautiful butterfly. Sister! Please be okay. Koko Shinobu's face was serious, her heart filled with anxiety. After their parents died, she and her sister had relied on each other. If anything happened to her sister, she gritted her teeth and quickened her pace. As she passed the alley between 2 rows of buildings, Koko Shinobu abruptly stopped. In the alley, a familiar figure leaned weakly against the wall, blood flowing everywhere. Sister! A demon? Is he the one who hurt my sister? Shinobu Koko's eyes widened with fury. Her hand gripped the hilt of her sword as she launched herself like an arrow. Bastard! Scum! Die! Just as she was about to draw her sword for a killing strike, her sister's anxious voice reached her ears. Shinobu, stop! Hey! Shinobu Koko frowned, confusion filling her mind, but she halted. Sister! She kept her hand on her sword's hilt, warily watching the demon in the shadows. Koko Kane sighed with relief, though her face grew even paler. He's not our enemy, Shinobu. Don't you recognize him? Shinobu Koko looked more closely at Aoki. When her eyes landed on his golden vertical pupils, she gasped, Mr. Aamira. Koko Kane smiled weakly. It wasn't Mr. Aamira who hurt me. It was Upper Moon 2. If Mr. Aamira hadn't arrived in time, I might have been eaten by Upper Moon 2. Aoki shook his head. The dawn is breaking. Even without me, you wouldn't have been eaten. Reassured that Aoki wasn't an enemy, Shinobu Koko turned her attention to her sister and quickly moved to her side, looking at her in distress. Sister, you're bleeding a lot. She's dying. Aoki observed Koko Kane, seeing through the transparent world the extent of her injuries. Externally, the wounds were severe. Internally, her lungs were perforated, and other organs were severely frostbitten. Butterfly Kane's heartbeat was growing weaker and weaker. His intervention had helped slightly, but hadn't changed the situation fundamentally. Shinobu Koko glared at Aoki immediately. Koko Kane grabbed her sister's hand. Shinobu, Mr. Aamira is right. You should understand the situation. No. No. There must be a way. I brought medicine. Shinobu Koko's eyes turned red as she hastily pulled out various medicines. Koko Kane stopped her. No, Shinobu. I know my condition well. In my last moments, I have something to say. Ahem. Aoki interrupted her, pulling out a porcelain bottle. Don't worry, try this first. The butterfly sisters looked puzzled. Aoki didn't waste words. He opened the lid, took out a red pill, and tossed it to them. Shinobu Koko quickly caught it. A strange, invigorating fragrance filled the air. What is this? A kind of medicine, Aoki replied. The pill he offered was a chi and blood pill. He had long considered the effects of chi and blood pills on humans. Since humans could drink demon blood, it stood to reason they could also consume chi and blood pills. For Aoki, chi and blood pills were a unique form of nourishment, or a tonic that rapidly restored his depleted strength. For humans, they should be an extraordinary tonic. Perhaps it could sustain someone as gravely injured as Koko Kane. Given the resilience of a Hashira, if the pill could keep Koko Kane alive, she would likely recover. Chapter 55, Agreement Extra Chapter. Medicine. Shinobu Koko couldn't believe that a pill could do anything, but at this moment, she was willing to grasp at any straw. Sister. Shinobu carefully placed the red pill at Koko Kane's mouth. Although Kane didn't believe that a simple pill could heal her injuries, she didn't want to refuse Mr. Aamira's kindness. Reluctantly, she opened her mouth and swallowed the pill. At first, she felt nothing, but soon her expression changed. It felt as if a fireball had ignited inside her, spreading waves of warmth from her chest to her limbs. Kane's pale face quickly turned a healthy shade of red, her weak heartbeat grew stronger, and her breathing stabilized. She instinctively used her breathing techniques to harness the power of the medicine and control her injuries. The sensation of dying, like ice melting under the sun, rapidly faded, and even some minor wounds began to scab over. How is this possible? Kane thought, shocked. A pill the size of a soybean had such miraculous effects, defying all her expectations. Shinobu cried tears of joy, wonderful, sister. It's a miracle. What she had thought was just a desperate grasp for hope turned into a reality beyond her wildest dreams. Overwhelmed by a surge of emotions, Shinobu couldn't contain her tears. Aoki cautioned, don't celebrate too soon, you still need comprehensive and proper treatment. Though Kane's condition appeared significantly improved, the chi and blood pills' effects were only temporary. Her injuries were still far from healed. Kane understood her situation well but remained awestruck. She had been on the brink of death, yet a single pill had pulled her back from the abyss. As a doctor, she knew how unbelievable this was. She also realized the immense value of the medicine. Thank you, Mr. Aamira, for saving my life, Kane said gently and solemnly. Thank you for saving my sister. Shinobu added, wiping her tears. Her face, still tender and youthful at 14, was flushed with relief, her eyes red from crying. Her petite figure made her seem even younger. Aoki glanced at her before turning his attention back to Kane. You're welcome. I had my reasons for saving you. Reasons? Kane was puzzled. Mr. Aamira, is there something we can do for you? Aoki shook his head. You'll understand later. He only had 3 chi and blood pills. He was willing to use one now largely because of the kindness the butterfly sisters had shown to Takina and his master's wife. Judging by their reactions, it seemed they only knew about his deeds in Azabu and hadn't discovered his true identity. For now, he preferred to keep his secrets to himself. The butterfly sisters were left in confusion. Aoki stood up and looked outside the alley. All right, go back and heal. I should be on my way. Mr. Aamira, please wait. Kane, anxious, stood up abruptly despite her injuries and grabbed Aoki's hand. Don't get too excited, Aoki cautioned. You could worsen your injuries and waste the effects of the medicine. Kane took a deep breath but didn't release his hand. She looked at him earnestly. I need to speak with you about something important. Aoki, seeing her sincerity, thought for a moment. Okay, but you should treat your injuries first. Let's meet here again in half a month. Kane shook her head. A week will be enough. As a pillar, her body was exceptionally strong. Though not as resilient as a demon's, her recovery ability was far superior to that of an ordinary human. All right, see you in 7 days. Aoki nodded slightly at the two of them before his figure vanished. Sister, was that the ability you mentioned? Shinobu's eyes widened in disbelief. She hadn't seen how Mr. Aamira had left at all. Kane nodded, her eyes sparkling. Shinobu, did you notice? Mr. Aamira is different from other demons. He doesn't have that rotten smell, and his gaze when he looks at us lacks that hunger. Indeed, Mr. Aamira was unlike other demons. Shinobu agreed, but there was something more pressing to address. She quickly interrupted her sister's thoughts. Sister, let's get back to the butterfly house. You need to start your treatment immediately. Yes, Kane agreed. I need to heal quickly so we can meet Mr. Aamira in 7 days. Though her injuries were still severe, with the physical resilience of a pillar and their medical expertise, she was no longer in immediate danger. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so calm. Shinobu carried Kane on her back and hurried towards the butterfly house. Sister, you mentioned encountering the second upper-rank demon. How strong was he? Kane's expression grew serious. Very strong. Stronger than we had previously thought. During our fight, he didn't even show his full strength, yet I could hardly defend myself. It would take at least 3 pillars to stand a chance against him. At this point, there were only 8 pillars in the Demon Slayer Corps, and they struggled to contain even 3 upper-rank demons together. And above the upper-rank demons was the even more formidable Muzan Kibutsuji. Shinobu felt a heavy weight settle in her heart. She asked again, what about Mr. Aamira? Mr. Aamira is stronger than the second upper rank. Kane recalled their brief encounter. Though their fight was short, Mr. Aamira consistently held the upper hand. Shinobu was not particularly surprised by this answer. After all, Mr. Aamira had defeated an upper-rank demon. She thought of something else. Sister, should we report this to the master? Not yet, Kane replied firmly. Although I don't know why, Mr. Aamira has shown goodwill towards us, especially towards you. Shinobu was puzzled. She had noticed Mr. Aamira seemed more interested in her than her sister, even though Kane had been the more welcoming one initially. Despite her initial aggression, Mr. Aamira appeared more drawn to her. Kane continued, if we disclose information about Mr. Aamira without his consent, it could harm our relationship with him. It's better to wait until after we've spoken to him and gained his approval. Then we can inform the master. Shinobu nodded in agreement. Mr. Aamira had saved her sister, which was as good as saving her. At this moment, she fervently hoped that Mr. Aamira was the good demon her sister believed him to be. She didn't want any conflict with Mr. Aamira. She wished to maintain a friendly relationship. Chapter 56, Yabayashiki Kagaya's Invitation. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the familiar alley, the sisters Shinobu and Kane stood side by side. They looked similar and dressed similarly, but they gave off completely different vibes. The former was tall, beautiful, and gentle, while the latter was petite, cute, and dignified. Although Kane's injury had not yet healed completely, it basically didn't affect her movements. She looked around for a while. Shinobu, do you think Mr. Aamira will come? Shinobu looked at her helplessly. Sister, you've asked this question 5 times. Really? Kane smiled gently, not embarrassed. I guess I can't hold my temper. Shinobu understood her sister. Her sister always hoped that humans and demons could coexist peacefully. Previously, this was always an unrealistic fantasy, but with Mr. Aamira, it had a possibility of success. Mr. Aamira is not someone who breaks his word. Since he promised, he will definitely come. As soon as she finished speaking, they both looked at the entrance of the alley. A figure appeared where it had been empty just moments ago. Sorry for the wait. Aoki walked into the alley, his eyes casually sweeping around to ensure there were only the butterfly sisters present, with no ambush in sight. We just arrived not long ago. Kane showed a gentle smile. Shinobu quietly rolled her eyes. How is your body? Aoki asked. Thanks to Mr. Aamira's medicine, it's fine now. After a few pleasantries, Aoki didn't beat around the bush and said directly, so, Miss Kane, what do you want to talk to me about? Before that, I'd like to ask, Mr. Aamira, do you eat people? Kane looked at Aoki with burning eyes. I never eat people. Aoki said calmly. He didn't mind discussing this topic and was willing to show his condition, but whether others believed him or not was beyond his control. Kane took a deep breath and said seriously, "So, Mr. Aamira, are you willing to cooperate with our Demon Slayer Corps?" "No." Aoki shook his head. "What if you have a change of heart and want to kill me?" Kane hurriedly said, "No. I can guarantee with my life that Mr. Aamira will never be in danger during our cooperation." Aoki glanced at her. "When did I say I was worried about my own safety? I'm afraid that I will get unhappy and kill you." Unlike those organizations in other worlds that always hide dirty deeds, the Demon Slayer Corps is very pure and exists specifically to fight against demons. The leaders of the Demon Slayer Corps, including the Yoshiwara clan and the Hashira, are idealists and genuinely good people. He was unwilling to contact the Demon Slayer Corps because of his identity as a demon. If he were an ordinary human, the Demon Slayer Corps would be very reliable, and the Hashira are people who prioritize the lives of ordinary humans above their own. Puff. Hearing this, Shinobu couldn't help laughing out loud, and quickly turned serious again under her sister's gaze. "Mr. Aamira, although you are very strong, our Demon Slayer Corps is not weak either. Mr. Aamira, we are very sincere. Would you reconsider?" Kane felt a bit helpless. Things were developing very differently from what she expected, and now she didn't know what to do. Aoki said, "Okay, we can cooperate." "Hey!" Shinobu and Kane were both stunned. This change was too fast and too easy, right? Aoki smiled. "I was just joking with you earlier." 7 days ago, when Kane mentioned that she had something important to discuss with him, he had roughly guessed their intentions. His willingness to come here actually showed his attitude. He needed more and more experience to level up. Demons were becoming harder to find, and the experience gained was diminishing. It was increasingly difficult to level up by himself. He had suffered enough from insufficient intelligence in the past 2 months. Now that the Demon Slayer Corps had reached out, he had no reason to refuse. As for whether this was a trap, he didn't care or was willing to take the risk. With his current strength, even if all 9 Hashira attacked him together, they couldn't keep him. "Just kidding." Shinobu felt a bit speechless. Kane didn't mind at all and said excitedly, "Great. But, Mr. Aamira, I need to report this to our leader first." "No problem, you can discuss it," Aoki said. 7 days later. They met again in the alley. As soon as they met, Kane said, "Mr. Aamira, our leader wants to meet and talk with you in person." Aoki was surprised. "The head of the Yoshiwara family wants to see me." Kane smiled. "The Lord said that since we want to cooperate, we should establish real trust between us." "Brave," Aoki said. The Demon Slayer Corps would certainly be aware of his strength and abilities. It was absolutely risking his life for Yoshiwara Kagaya to meet him. However, this wasn't surprising. In order to increase the probability of defeating Muzan Kibutsuji, Yoshiwara Kagaya could personally use explosives to send himself, his wife, and children to the sky. In the original work, he went against the majority's opinion and kept Tanjiro and Nezuko alive, laying the foundation for defeating Muzan Kibutsuji. With extraordinary wisdom and courage, although Yoshiwara Kagaya wasn't physically strong, he was indeed the soul of the Demon Slayer Corps. Kane added, "The Lord also said that he had a premonition that Mr. Aamira would be the key to defeating Muzan Kibutsuji." Premonition. Aoki's eyes moved slightly. The Demon Slayer world isn't as simple as it seems. Muzan Kibutsuji is actually from the Yoshiwara clan. After he became a demon, the Yoshiwara clan was cursed, and the children born became weaker and weaker, almost leading to their extinction at one point. Under the advice of the Lord of Gods, the Demon Slayer Corps was established, and they began to fight against demons, marrying people from the priest clan for generations, finally getting rid of the fate of extermination. However, no one could live past the age of 30. Curse, prophecy, hell, reincarnation. The Demon Slayer world seems weak, but something extremely terrifying seems to be hidden behind it. Aoki glanced at the sky. "Is there a god in this world?" Muzan said he had never encountered heavenly punishment, but the birth of Tsujikuni Yoriichi, the appearance of breathing techniques, stripes, red swords, and the transparent world, aren't they butcher knives aimed at Muzan? If he replaces Muzan and becomes the ultimate creature, will he also face heavenly punishment? Aoki thought for a while and shook his head secretly. Even if there are gods in this world, their power to interfere must be very limited. Otherwise, it wouldn't have taken 1,000 years to solve Muzan Kibutsuji. Now is not the time to consider these things. Aoki looked at Kane. I am looking forward to meeting the Yabayashiki family. Chapter 57 Aoki vs the Pillar. Aoki followed Butterfly Kane to an inconspicuous small town. He looked around curiously. Rows of buildings lined both sides of the road neatly. There were very few pedestrians, and the sounds of barking dogs and crowing roosters could be heard. I thought the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters would be somewhere deep in the mountains and old forests, but I didn't expect you to live so elegantly in a town. Butterfly Kane said, sometimes, towns are safer than mountains and forests, and our lord has more than one residence. Aoki nodded and said nothing. It is normal for a cunning rabbit to have 3 burrows. The Yabayashiki clan, the Demon Slayer Corps, and Muzan Kibutsuji have been entangled for hundreds of years, so they naturally understand this. The two came to a courtyard on the edge of the town. The courtyard occupied a vast area, and the gate was closed. Butterfly Kane knocked on the door, opened it, and walked in without waiting for a response. Aoki followed closely behind. As soon as he stepped through the door, eyes fell on him. Some were wary, curious, or hostile. Aoki's expression remained calm, and with a glance, he took in the scene in the yard. There were quite a few people in the yard. Directly in front of him was a house with curved eaves. At the door sat a black-haired young man with a hideous scar on his face. Next to him sat a beautiful white-haired woman. Not far from them, 2 children were playing. On their right side, 4 young men with powerful auras stood. Yabayashiki Kagaya, who had hideous scars on his face, stood up with a smile. Nice to meet you, Mr. Aamira. I have long admired your name, the head of the Yabayashiki clan. After Aoki said this, he looked at the 4 people staring at him intently. Are there only 4 Hashira here? Oh, no, there should be 5 including Miss Kane. Yabayashiki Kagaya's gentle smile made people feel at peace. Actually, I thought it would be nice if Kane brought you here, but these children insisted on coming. Understandable. Aoki looked at the 4 people. They were all familiar faces. The first young man had an open chest, a body covered with scars, and fierce eyes, the wind Hashira, Sanamai Shinazugawa. The second person had a stern face and wore a 2-colored Hayori, the water Hashira, Gyutomyoka. The third one was tall, strong, white-haired, and handsome, the sound Hashira, Tenjin Uzui. The fourth one was taller, dressed as a monk, blind in both eyes, the stone Hashira, Gyumeheim Jima. He could feel that the 4 were looking at him with strong hostility and fear. Both sides stared at each other without speaking, and the atmosphere gradually became tense. After a moment, Aoki said in surprise, "Aren't you going to do anything?" He thought these people wouldn't be able to resist testing him or trying to strike him. Especially the irritable Sanamai Shinazugawa. Yabayashiki Kagaya said sincerely, "Mr. Aamira, we sincerely want to cooperate with you. These children are only worried about my safety and have no harmful intentions towards you." A smile appeared on Aoki's face. "It doesn't matter, I think everyone is very interested in me. Let's spar. In fact, I am also very curious about breathing techniques." Sanamai Shinazugawa couldn't wait and said, "My lord, since he said so, we shouldn't refuse, right?" His eyes were wide open, as if glaring all the time, exuding a stern and violent aura. Tenjin Uzui took the long knife from his back, staring at Aoki with burning eyes. "If we want to cooperate, I also think it is best to find out each other's strengths first." Gyumeheim Jima clasped his hands together and shed 2 lines of tears. "I agree too. Amitabha." Gyutomyoka didn't speak, but he put his palm on the handle of his sword, clearly expressing his attitude. The atmosphere in the courtyard suddenly became tense. Aoki said, looking at the sincerity and courage of the head of the Yabayashiki family who came with his family, "I will not harm you. Of course, you don't have to worry about holding back. You can go all out." All 4 of them looked displeased. This was pure contempt. However, angry as they were, they wouldn't refuse this proposal. For them, being able to kill demons was the most important thing. If they could gain an advantage in fighting demons by putting down some dignity, it was worth it. Yabayashiki Kagaya pondered for a moment, then looked at Butterfly Kane. "What's your opinion, Kane?" Butterfly Kane looked at Aoki. "Since Mr. Aamira agrees, then I have no objection." "Okay. Since you all feel this way, I won't stop you. Yabayashiki Kagaya didn't waste any more words. He took his wife and children and retreated. Sanemi, Kane, and the others dispersed in tacit agreement, surrounding Aoki in the middle. Aoki looked around. Are you ready? Who will take action first? Sanemi's eyes were bloodshot, with murderous intent on his face. We already have the numerical advantage, so let you go first. Before he finished speaking, his expression changed drastically. Aoki, who was still in the middle of the encirclement, suddenly appeared in front of Sanemi, his fists ready. Then I won't be polite. So fast. No, it's not just fast, you can't see the movement trajectory at all. Is this the ability Kane mentioned? Sanemi roared in his heart, draw the sword. Draw the sword. Hurry up and draw the sword. Although his mind didn't react, his tempered body did. The light green blade suddenly unsheathed. Breath of wind, 6th form, black wind mountain mist. The black and green sword light suddenly appeared. However, Aoki's fist cleverly deflected, missed the blade, and hit Sanemi's chest hard. Poof! Sanemi took a step back and spat out a large mouthful of blood, but his movements did not stop. Breath of wind, 3rd form, clean storm wind tree. In the transparent world, Aoki clearly captured the changes in his muscles, accurately judged his movements, stepped forward, and like a prophet, his fists and elbows fell like lightning. The first punch hit Sanemi's shoulder, breaking his sword move. Then a heavy knee hit his stomach, causing Sanemi's body to bow like a prawn. With the final elbow strike, Sanemi spat out another large mouthful of blood, his face down, and his whole body slammed to the ground. A sharp sound of breaking through the air came from behind, followed by hurried footsteps. Aoki's figure suddenly disappeared. Wow! The broad axe wrapped around the iron chain slashed through the air but only hit emptiness. Tenjin Uzui and Jiu Tomioka missed the opportunity. Aoki appeared next to Gyomehime Jima. What a powerful physique! He is indeed the strongest in the Demon Slayer squad today. Gyomei stepped on the iron chain, and the meteor hammer at the other end slammed toward Aoki's head. Breath of stone, 2nd form, upper smash. I seem to know your weakness. Aoki's eyes moved, and his figure disappeared again. This time, he did not stay away from Gyomei but appeared diagonally above him, in an absolutely unexpected position. His palm became like a knife, cutting down silently. Aoki style, funeral slice. Chapter 58, Crushing Extra Chapter. Gyomehime Jima dragged the chain, and the broad axe whizzed down. However, before he had even walked halfway through the road, Aoki's palm was already close to his neck. At the critical moment, a pink long sword thrust out from below. Clang! Aoki's sword was blocked, but he was not disappointed at all. As expected, Gyomehime Jima was very strong and was undoubtedly the strongest member of the Demon Slayer squad. Although he was blind, his other senses, including his intuition, were extremely keen. He even had an inner eye that could see through superficial illusions and penetrate into the essence of things. Coupled with the sound of his special weapon, he could accurately grasp the surrounding space and the enemy's movements without being affected by any visual defects. It's a pity that you met me. Aoki said silently. Space Shuttle allowed him to skip all the intermediate processes and appear directly next to Gyomehime Jima from a distance. Without vision, this defect would be infinitely magnified. No matter how superb his skill, the weight of Gyomehime Jima's weapon determined that his attack speed was limited. Adding the two together, for him, as the strongest member of the Demon Slayer Corps, Gyomehime Jima became the least threatening and easiest person to deal with. If Transparent World was the nemesis of the Akaza, then Space Shuttle was undoubtedly the nemesis of Gyomehime Jima. Whoosh! The broad axe swept across but did not even touch the corner of Aoki's clothes. Butterfly Kane turned around sharply. Kane-san's moves are so gentle too. Mr. Aamira's voice sounded in her ears, and at the same time, she felt a pain in her chest and flew out. At this time, Tomioka Jiu, Sanemi Shinazugawa and Uzui Tenjin arrived at the same time, surrounding Aoki. Water breath, 7th form, drop ripple thrust. Breath of wind, 6th form, black wind mountain mist. The breath of sound, 1st form, roar. Boom! Aoki's figure disappeared, and all three long knives missed. With the improvement of his intelligence, he had become more and more able to control the space shuttle. His control of distance had become more precise, and his cooling time had also been reduced by almost half. This ability again. Sanemai's expressions were a bit ugly. When they heard Kane describe it before, they felt that it was very troublesome. After experiencing it, they found that it was 10 times more difficult than expected. The light outlined Aoki's figure. He landed lightly and looked at the 5 people opposite. Kane and Jima faced each other with their backs to each other, while Sanemai Shinazugawa, Tomioka Jiyu, and Uzui Tenjin each guarded an area. "Are you waiting for me to take the initiative to attack?" Aoki said. The faces of the 5 pillars all darkened. The first form, Dust Whirlwind Cutter. Sanemai Shinazugawa slashed sharply with his long sword, and a spiral wind blade suddenly took shape. Uzui Tenjin and Tomioka Jiyu also launched attacks at the same time. Kane and Jima were in the underworld raiding formation, ready to capture traces of Aoki's flash at any time. Pillars were not very good at cooperating with each other. They were usually very busy, each with their own area of responsibility, and there was no time to practice coordination. But they all had very high combat qualities. Even if they had never worked together before, they could quickly learn the ropes. By the way, they also came up with a way to deal with the space shuttle. From what you could see, it was like 2 groups attacking alternately, with one group on guard against the other. That was the formation they were currently using. "That's a good idea, but have you forgotten something?" Aoki's expression was calm, and the muscle changes of the 3 people were clearly reflected in the transparent world. He knew their moves and movements clearly. Next, he moved. Bang bang bang! Sanemai Shinazugawa, Tomioka Jiyu, and Uzui Tenjin flew out at the same time, with traces of blood spilling from the corners of their mouths, and their faces became a little pale. Aoki also had a few wounds on his body, but they were completely healed in the blink of an eye, and his eyes passed over the 3 of them. They were just 3 whiteboard pillars. Did he need to hide? The expressions of Sanemai Shinazugawa, Butterfly Kane, and Jima, who were not directly involved in the attack, all froze. They had thought about various possibilities but never considered the situation where the 3 pillars could not defeat even if they worked together. 1-on-1 didn't work, 2-on-1, 3-on-1 didn't work, and 5-on-1 didn't work. How could they fight this? Aoki didn't care what they thought. He flashed his body and suddenly appeared above Uzui Tenjin, who had not yet landed. Uzui Tenjin's expression changed greatly, and he slashed with his knife without hesitation. But Aoki was faster. The first punch knocked his weapon away, and the second punch hit his heart. Boom! Uzui Tenjin hit the ground hard, spitting out a mouthful of blood again. Aoki took advantage of the recoil, his body slightly vacated for a distance, and then disappeared again. The breath of wind, 5th form, cold mountain wind. Sanemai Shinazugawa waved his long sword directly out of thin air after seeing Uzui Tenjin being attacked. What a pity, it's still useless. In the transparent world, all his movements were clearly visible, and Aoki appeared directly on the side where the long sword could not attack. Boom! Sanemai Shinazugawa flew out, feeling like his waist was broken. Uzui! Sanemai! At this time, the attacks of Jima and Butterfly Kane also arrived. In fact, they reacted when the 3 people were seriously injured. But Aoki's movements were too fast, and in just a blink of an eye, Uzui Tenjin and Sanemai Shinazugawa were hit hard again. Rock breathing, 5th form, Arcs of Justice. Flower breathing, 4th form, Crimson Hanagoromo. What made the 2 angry and helpless was that Aoki's figure disappeared again. "Mr. Jiyu, be careful!" Butterfly Kane shouted without even looking. However, her reminder was still too late. When she just said the first word, Tomioka Jiyu had already seen the figure that suddenly appeared in front of him. Bang, bang, bang! The long sword was unsheathed, and the 2 quickly fought. Aoki was intact, but Tomioka Jiyu was hit by several punches, and his face became paler. At this moment, the sound of the chain rustling sounded, and the strong wind poured in from the back of the neck. Aoki let go of Tomioka Jiyu, who was about to fall, and turned around to grab him. Crash! His palm accurately avoided the broad axe and grabbed the chain. Jima paused, realizing that this was not good. Aoki pulled hard. The chain tightened, and Jima took a step forward uncontrollably. Now, even the best human physique was inferior to him in absolute strength. Butterfly Kane appeared beside him, flower breathing, 5th form, Peonies of Futility. Her long sword stabbed at Aoki from all directions, and the pink blade swayed like a peony. Aoki appeared out of thin air above Jima. Jima was a beat slower, and by the time he reacted, it was too late. Boom! He was hit hard on the head, and his huge body fell with a thud, bleeding. Chapter 59, Intelligence. 4 of the 5 pillars fell. After Aoki landed, he looked at the only girl who was still standing. Kane looked serious and took a defensive posture. Aoki smiled. Let's stop here today. Kane was stunned and slowly put away her long sword. She still had the strength to fight, but there was no need to continue. This was not a life and death battle. The other pillars stood up one after another, their faces were very ugly. Their injuries were not serious, strictly speaking, they had not completely lost their combat effectiveness. However, everyone knew that this was the result of Aamira showing mercy. If it was a life and death battle, even if they could burst out with greater potential, at least half of them would have to die. 5-1, lost. And the loss was so tragic. This was simply a slap in the face. Aoki looked calm. When he found that he was extremely restrained by Gyume, he had already expected this result. Kokushibo faced Gyume with sets of equipment, a sword and transparent world, plus 2 sets of equipment and a sword, and briefly entered the transparent world plus Sanamai and Jinya, who played a miraculous role. In the end, he still killed Jinya, and forced Sanamai and Gyume into desperate situations many times. He was facing only 5 pillars, not a life and death battle. The strongest among them was severely restrained by himself. In this situation, he couldn't win easily, so he might as well find a piece of tofu to kill himself. Tap, tap, tap. Kagaya walked over with the support of Amini. His expression was still calm, as if he had not been hit, and he spoke gently. Mr. Aamira, how does the strength of the upper moons compare to yours? Aoki had thought about this question a long time ago. My current strength should be similar to that of the upper moons. Kane cheered up and asked, Mr. Aamira, how do you think our strength compares to the upper moons? Aoki said, 1-on-1, you are no match for any upper moon. The pillars were silent. They were all extremely confident people and naturally did not want to accept this evaluation, but with such a tragic record just now, they had no confidence to refute it at all. Kane had personally fought with the upper moons and had a deeper understanding of their strength than others, and was more accepting of this answer. Then, what about Muzan Kibutsuji? All of a sudden, everyone forgot other questions and looked at Aoki with burning eyes. Whether it was face or confidence, everything was not worth mentioning in front of the name Muzan Kibutsuji. Even Yabayashiki Kagaya showed an expectant look. Although they regarded Muzan Kibutsuji as their mortal enemy, they knew very little about him. Any bit of information was invaluable. Muzan Kibutsuji. Aoki smiled and said, if you all attack together, Muzan Kibutsuji will not even need 1/10 of his strength to easily defeat you. He did not know how strong Muzan Kibutsuji was. Anyway, after aging for thousands of years, Muzan could still beat almost all the pillars with Ninchiren swords to the point of death in an extremely short period of time. Now, even if these pillars attack together, they cannot pose any threat to Muzan Kibutsuji. Everyone fell into a deeper silence, and the yard became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. After a while, Kagaya was the first to recover, his tone calm and firm. I didn't expect the gap to be so big, but I believe that as long as we keep working hard, one day, we will definitely defeat Muzan Kibutsuji. That's right, Muzan must die. Aoki nodded, his tone full of murderous intent. Kagaya smiled, Mr. Aamira, we have a common goal and should help each other. Of course. Aoki responded readily. This was originally his purpose, there was nothing to hesitate about. The pillars were silent, no one spoke up to object, obviously they had discussed this issue and reached a consensus. Aoki also found that after the competition, the hostility of these pillars towards him suddenly decreased a lot. Is this considered a fight without acquaintance? Nothing is more convincing than facts. If he really had bad intentions, the Demon Slayer Corps would have suffered heavy casualties, especially Yabayashiki Kagaya, who would have died long ago. Afterwards, Aoki and Yabayashiki Kagaya discussed the details of the cooperation. The main thing is that the Demon Slayer Corps provides intelligence, and Aoki is responsible for processing it. He is considered a special non-staff member of the Demon Slayer Corps. Aoki also shared some of the information he had with them. Regarding the second upper moon, he is the founder of the Eternal Paradise, which is a small church with only about 250 followers. The pillars all showed great interest. Although Aamira said that they are not the opponent of the upper moon in a one-on-one fight, it doesn't matter. If they can't beat them in a one-on-one fight, they can just fight in a group. There is no need to talk about martial ethics with demons. Yabayashiki Kagaya said, Eternal Paradise? Okay, this is a very important clue. We will start an investigation immediately. When we have news, we will notify Mr. Aamira immediately. Aoki nodded with satisfaction. With the help of the Demon Slayer Corps' intelligence system, he can find prey for himself. This was the purpose of his trip. Yabayashiki Kagaya asked, Anything else, Mr. Aamira? Aoki thought for a moment and said, There is another private matter. I would like to ask the Demon Slayer Corps to help me find a charcoal boy named Tanjiro Kamatu. He is about 12 years old this year, with dark red hair and red eyes, a scar on the left forehead, and always wears a green Ichimatsu pattern feather webbing. The power of the Demon Slayer Corps should not be wasted. He is not afraid of the Demon Slayer Corps finding out anything. Now Tanjiro is just an ordinary charcoal boy. Who would have thought that he has the strongest talent for being a demon, has seen blue spider lilies, and has mastered the breathing of the sun? Kagaya asked, Tanjiro Kamatu? Mr. Aamira, is he your relative? Several pillars also quietly pricked up their ears. They know a lot about what happened after Aamira became a demon, but they know nothing about his identity before his death. This may be an opportunity to understand him. Aoki shook his head, No. I just want to find him to inquire about something. Everyone knew that there was something strange about this, but now the two sides are in a cooperative relationship. Aamira is unwilling to say, and they can't force it. But it doesn't matter. If they can find the boy named Tanjiro Kamatu, they can investigate first. This wasn't a violation of the agreement. Tanjiro's family lives in the mountains and makes a living by burning and selling charcoal. He is the eldest son in the family, and has 5 younger brothers and sisters. His father may have passed away. Aoki briefly introduced Tanjiro's situation, and finally looked at Jiu. Tanjiro's family may be in the area you are responsible for. Tomioka Jiu was stunned and nodded silently, Okay. Chapter 60, Test Extra Chapter. In a simply furnished room, Kagaya sat in front of him, while Amin attended to him from the side. Chiyome, Sanamai, Jiu, and Tenjin were seated across from each other. Ahem, cough, cough, how do you feel? Kagaya coughed twice. Strong, really strong. Moreover, my blood has no effect. Sanamai's expression was extremely serious. The 5 pillars joined forces and were unable to fight back against Aoki. The cruel fact was like the cold wind in deep winter, making his heart feel cold. Although they did not unleash their greatest potential because it was not a life or death battle, why did their opponent go all out? Chiyome clasped his hands together, This time, I was holding everyone back. As the strongest member of the Demon Slayer Corps, he had become the most useless person. There is nothing we can do about it. His ability is too well suited to restrain you, Mr. Himejima. Tenjin touched his hair. I don't know if it's my imagination, but I feel like he can see through our moves. I also have this feeling, Jiu put his hands on his legs and said calmly, When I was about to use combat skills, all my movements were seen through. The room fell silent. Sanamai clenched his fists and said slowly, His ability activates without any warning, the interval is very short, and it can be used continuously. Until we find a way to counter this ability, there is absolutely nothing we can do against him. Yabayashiki Kagaya said gently, Mr. Aamira is now our partner. There is no need to consider this issue anymore. Yes. The 4 of them said in unison. The street was quiet at night, and 2 figures, a man and a woman, were walking slowly. They both looked under 20 years old. The man was tall, heroic, and handsome, with a pair of golden vertical eyes that attracted attention even at night. The woman was tall and beautiful, gentle as water, and had a temperament that made people want to get close to her. Mr. Aamira, what do you think about using poison? Hey? What? Aoki, who was reviewing the battle just now, was a little unable to react. Kane raised her lavender eyes. According to Mr. Aamira's description, Kibutsuji Muzan is too strong. In a head-on battle, even if we gather all our strength, I'm afraid we won't be his opponent. Aoki nodded. Kane's guess was correct. The current Demon Slayer Corps was no match for Kibutsuji Muzan. Kane said, So I thought, can I use poison to weaken Kibutsuji Muzan? My sister lacks wrist strength and is not good at slashing, so she uses poison to increase her damage. But I don't know if poison has any effect on Muzan Kibutsuji. Of course it works, but it's impossible to kill Muzan Kibutsuji with poison alone. As long as you give him enough time, he can decompose any poison, Aoki said. He had no plans to introduce Tamayo to the Demon Slayer Corps for the time being. The Demon Slayer Corps' hatred for demons runs deep into their bones. He could guarantee his own safety, but Tamayo and Yoshiwara didn't have much ability to protect themselves. The current situation, unlike the original work, is not so urgent that they must put aside all their grudges and work together. It's best to wait until both parties have established further trust. It doesn't matter, just weaken him and find another opportunity to cut his neck. It's useless to chop the neck. Muzan Kibutsuji has already exceeded his limit long ago, and even a severed head can be regenerated. So, if you want to kill him, you can only rely on sunlight. Kane's expression looked a little heavy. That was indeed the case before, but now, even a level 2 demon devouring has a chance. Thoughts flashed through Aoki's mind. Of course, the premise is that he can cause enough damage to Kibutsuji Muzan. If he can't touch him, the level 2 demon devouring will not be effective. Kane sighed, it's really scary, even despairing. I can't help but think, with our power, can we really eliminate Kibutsuji Muzan? Aoki said, actually, the strongest person that has ever appeared in this world is not Muzan Kibutsuji, but a swordsman who uses the breathing method. Koko Kane quickly reacted, a user of the initial breath. Aoki nodded, Yoriichi, the chosen son, almost killed Kibutsuji Muzan with his sword. After being heavily weakened, Kibutsuji Muzan still beat everyone, but Yoriichi almost killed him in seconds with every move he made. The sword wound left behind has not completely healed for hundreds of years. Why is there such a big gap between us pillars and initial breathing users? Kane said blankly, I can feel that my strength is close to the limit. If I continue to train, my strength may improve, but it is not certain whether I can catch up with Mr. Himejima, and I cannot compete with Mr. Aamira at all. Don't talk about your limits lightly, your potential is far more than that, Aoki said. Patterns are the key, as they can greatly improve physical fitness, allowing the pillars to truly have the strength to challenge the upper moons. Swordsmanship is based on grip strength. Although there is no evidence, before awakening the mark, the grip strength should be difficult to reach the standard. Transparent World is a plugin that only a few people can master and cannot be considered a regular force. Contemporary pillars should all have the potential to awaken their marks, but the first person to awaken their marks is the key. There seems to be a switch in this world. After the first person with the mark appears, the switch is turned on, and the people around can also get the mark as if by resonance. In this generation, the first person to awaken the mark is Tanjiro. He is still an ordinary charcoal boy now. The time for the Demon Slayer Corps to take off has yet to come. However, Kane didn't know this and only thought that Mr. Aamira was comforting her, with a gentle smile on her face. Don't worry, Mr. Aamira, I won't be defeated. Mr. Aamira's agreement to cooperate is a great encouragement to me. As long as we unite and never give up, we will be able to defeat Muzan Kibutsuji one day. If one person can't beat him, we will go together. If we are not a match for him head-on, we will use poison. If we can't kill him by beheading, we will drag him into the sun. There must be a way. Aoki smiled and didn't continue to discuss this topic. So he changed the subject. I didn't expect this time to go so smoothly. I thought you would be more wary of me. Kane smiled embarrassedly. Before this, we carefully investigated Mr. Aamira's deeds, and we tested it during the battle. Hey! Aoki was surprised. Test? What test? Why didn't I notice? The smile in Kane's eyes became more charming. Mr. Shinazugawa, the one with white hair and many scars on his body, actually has a rare blood constitution, and his blood has a strong attraction to demons. During the battle, he deliberately cut his arm and bled a lot, but Mr. Aamira did not react at all. Combined with the situation we investigated before, it is basically confirmed that you, Mr. Aamira, really don't need to eat people. Rare blood. Aoki suddenly realized. He knew that Sanemi had very strong rare blood, which not only had a strong attraction to demons but also could make demons who smelled it drunk. However, he did not feel anything unusual during the battle, so naturally, he did not notice their little test. After the battle, the hostility of the pillars decreased a lot. He originally thought it was just because he showed mercy in the battle, but he did not expect that there was a test.
Thanks for listening.